Chapter 260. Elsewhere on Dingzhou's warship. A large group of demigods from the Xia people had gathered in the main hall of the warship. Everyone was celebrating this unprecedented victory. Who would have thought that the demigods of our generation would have the chance to destroy the demonic faction headquarters? I feel like I'm dreaming. Right. We were just celebrating our victory over the 5 demon generals when we immediately received news that we were attacking the demonic faction headquarters. Furthermore, everything went smoothly. Attacking the demonic faction headquarters was really easy. We actually managed to take it down so quickly. Speaking of which, it's strange. The interior of the demonic faction headquarters has already been destroyed. Many of the arrays were completely destroyed. That's right. Before we even entered, the inner formation had already been destroyed, said Yi Zichen. Who destroyed it? I feel that Palace Lord Chun is hiding many things from us. How did the 5 demon generals and the demonic faction headquarters get discovered? Who did this to the demonic faction headquarters being almost completely destroyed? Perhaps there are some secrets involved. The demigods of the Xia people were all discussing. Among the group of demigods, the happiest was Chao Qing. He was known as the Thunder God and had a very violent temperament. He was also incomparably excited about attacking the demonic faction headquarters. To be able to participate in such a huge battle before his death, he would die without regrets. Chao Qing was actually able to naturally condense a true deity heart under this extremely excited state of mind. As he waved the staff around in a frenzy, he became the 3rd demigod of the Xia people to condense a true deity heart. His strength immediately soared to the point where he was even stronger than Xikong Yang. He probably had the qualifications to be ranked among the top 3 demigods. Brother Chao, congratulations. Brother Chao, congratulations. You actually managed to condense a true deity heart while nearing the end of your lifespan. Haha, I admire you. Brother Chao, who knows, you might even be able to open your deity sea and become a true deity before the end of your lifespan. The bald and skinny old man Chao Qing chuckled. Today was truly an extremely joyous day. Killing the demon generals, breaking through the demonic faction headquarters, and condensing a true deity heart. How carefree was this? Elder Chao. Palace Lord Chun walked to Chao Qing's side with a glass of wine in his hand. Palace Lord Chun. Chao Qing nodded. Palace Lord Chun smiled and transmitted his voice. You've condensed the true deity's heart. You may have a chance to become a god. Don't make fun of me. Chao Qing sent a voice transmission. I know my own strength very well. Being able to condense a true deity heart is already not bad. Becoming a deity. There's no hope, and I'm getting closer and closer to the end of my lifespan. There is a place. If you enter it, you might be able to become a god, Palace Lord Chun transmitted. Oh, where is it? Chao Qing was surprised. You have already condensed your true deity heart, and you are nearing the end of your lifespan. Therefore, according to the rules of the Infernal Palace, I can only tell you. Palace Lord Chun transmitted his voiceover. This place is called Crimson Rock Mountain. It's hard to explain it in a few sentences. When we return to the Infernal Palace, the 2 of us can slowly talk about it in private. Chao Qing nodded lightly. Crimson Rock Mountain? He would remember it. Palace Lord Chun suddenly walked to the front of the main hall and turned to look at all the demigods of the Xia people present. In a loud voice he said, "Everyone." His voice naturally resounded throughout the main hall. For a moment, all the demigods quietened down and looked at Palace Lord Chun. This is a great victory. Palace Lord Chen's face faintly glowed. His eyes filled with excitement. A great victory that can be said to affect the entire history of the Xia people. Its importance is even greater than what you all think. Oh. For a moment, all the demigods of the Xia people were puzzled. Breaking through the demonic faction headquarters was something that had never happened before in the history of the Xia people. Of course it was important. Palace Lord Chun said. It's even greater than what you think, which made them puzzled. Palace Lord Chun continued, why? It's because of this. As he spoke, Palace Lord Chun waved his hand and a bronze coffin appeared beside him. Hua! The lid of the bronze coffin was directly lifted off by Do Qi. Immediately, the aura of a dark spell formation was set up within the coffin. causing all the demigods of the Xia people present to feel their hearts tighten. This is the most important item in the entire demonic faction headquarters. This bronze coffin originally contained a fleshly body, a body required by the great demon god to descend. Palace Lord Chen said. What? Divine avatar? A fleshly body required by the great demon god to descend. This news instantly shocked all the demigods of the Xia people. Heavens, they all knew how terrifying a divine avatar was. That was in the distant past, when the demonic faction and the temple of the earth god were fighting over the faith of this mortal world. They had only sent out a divine avatar once. At other times, the divine avatar had never appeared. It must be known that even the powerful deities of the deity world and the dark abyss needed to consider whether the resources they invested were worth it. They needed to consider the input and the output. Logically speaking, it was not possible for another divine avatar to be born. There is no need to doubt. Another voice sounded. It was Mountain Lord He. This bronze coffin previously contained the fleshly body required by the great demon god to descend. I personally witnessed the destruction of that fleshly body. How could that be? Why would the great demon god do such a thing? An uproar broke out. The demigods did not dare to believe it. This is the plan of the sorcerer god and the great demon god. It is impossible for this plan to target the temple of the earth god, because the sorcerer god has no reason to go against them. According to our speculations, there is an 80 to 90% chance that it is targeting our Xia people. Palace Hetchin said, this god's avatar is the key. Once it is successfully nurtured, the great demonic god's avatar will successfully descend. A divine avatar will completely sweep away our Xia people. Because a divine avatar has the strength of a demigod, it will be able to slaughter its way into the infernal realm. It might even destroy the Xia capital of the infernal realm. Our Xia people might even perish from this. All the demigods of the Xia people shuddered. They were confident in the strength of the Xia people. After all, over 300 demigod demons in history were unable to shake the Xia capital. However, although there was only one divine avatar of the great demon god, it was more terrifying than 300 demigod demons. How terrifying was it? They did not know because the Xia people had never fought against someone of this level. Take a look. Palace Lord Chun said as he waved his hand. An image appeared in midair. The image showed a mysterious crimson-armored man carrying a huge bronze coffin in one hand and a blood-red scimitar in the other. That's him, the demonic faction's strongest third priest. Palace Lord Chun said. At the first moment of the attack, the demonic faction's third priest tried his best to escape with the bronze coffin. I controlled the Dingzhou battleship to stop him, but the third priest also brought along a life-saving treasure. At the same time, he also tried his best to escape. On the image, suddenly the huge ball of lightning rapidly shrank and exploded. The mysterious crimson-armored man, the bronze coffin, and the blood-red scimitar were all sent flying. An illusion of the head of the great demon god appeared on the armor. The great demon god's head was clearly roaring. The mysterious crimson-armored man quickly woke up and immediately flew towards the bronze coffin, wanting to snatch it. At this moment, a hand reached out from the void, grabbed the bronze coffin, and dragged it into the void. The illusion of the great demon god's head roared. The mysterious crimson-armored man was completely stunned, not knowing what to do. Attacking from the void? Who is it? The demigods of the Xia people vaguely guessed what was going on. Previously they were puzzled. How could the demonic faction headquarters, which had just been breached, be completely destroyed from the inside? Now that they saw the hand that reached out from the void, they naturally understood. This matter should have been kept secret. It was only for the sake of breaching the demonic faction headquarters, in order to destroy the fleshly body of the great demon god's avatar. In the end, his identity was still exposed. Palace Lord Chun said, since even the enemy knows of his identity, there is no need for me to hide it. Weren't you all asking? How did we discover the demon general? You all asked me just now, how did we discover the demonic faction headquarters? How did the interior of the demonic faction headquarters get destroyed? Also, who was the one who snatched the avatar of the great demon god? Palace Lord Chun nodded. He was Dongbo Shuiying. The demigods of the Xia people, who had long perked up their ears, were all dumbfounded. The person who had made such a huge contribution was Dongbo Shuiying, a saint transcendent? This was too inconceivable. Dongbo Shuiying's talent is extremely high. He grasped hold of the true piercing technique and another grade 2 true meaning. You all saw it for yourself. He could enter the void, causing that mysterious person to be helpless against him. Relying on this true meaning, he roamed the entire Xia people's world and found the 5 demon generals. He also discovered the demonic faction headquarters and the avatar of the great demon god. Only then did he begin his follow-up actions. Palace Lord Chun said, "His talent is truly high. He is the most talented transcendent in the history of the Xia people. I originally wanted to protect him and try my best to conceal this information. However, now that the matter of destroying the fleshly body of the great demon god's avatar has been exposed, I decided to tell everyone about it. In truth, a person who has made such a huge contribution to the Xia people should not be hiding his contributions." Everything became clear. The doubts in the hearts of the demigods of the Xia people had been completely resolved. It was no wonder that Dongbo Shuiying could find the 5 demon generals and the demonic faction headquarters just 6 years after he grasped hold of a grade 2 true meaning and dealt with the demon's nest. No wonder. He could enter the void? 2 grade 2 true meanings? How long had he been cultivating? Towards this young saint transcendent, the demigods of the Xia people could not even feel a shred of jealousy. When the gap between them was small, they might even feel jealous. But this kind of absolute talent could be said to be the most outstanding transcendent in the history of the Xia people. Instead, they felt proud and expectant. With such a peerless character in their Xia people, what would happen after a few hundred years? Palace Lord Chun, I've discovered the beast race's elder Aolan monarch Qing Yan, and a purple-haired girl. Their target is me, and they have already sealed off the surrounding world. I can't escape. Dongbo Shuiying's transmission came quickly along with a map. Following that, Jingqiu, Puyangbo, Yufeng, Yuanqing, Zhangpeng, and Shidong all sent messages. Palace Lord Qin's expression changed. His eyes turned red as he let out a furious roar. Dongbo Shuiying is being ambushed and assassinated by the beast race. Set off immediately. We must save Dongbo Shuiying. Ambushed and assassinated? Quick, let's set off immediately. We must save him. All the demigods of the Xia people were anxious. Hong Long Long, Dingzhou's battleship immediately moved. The enormous battleship tore through space and rushed out of Razor Wind City. Chapter 261. Dongbo Shuiying exchanged a few words with the Spider Queen and the Green Nightmare Monarch to buy some time. Soon a breath's time had passed. It's here. With a glance, Shuiying could see that in midair 150 kilometers away from Razor Wind City, space had been torn apart abruptly. An enormous black battleship flew over from within. On the body of the black battleship, there were 2 unique characters representing the meaning of D9. A furious roar resounded in the world. Oh Lan, does your beast clan want to be exterminated? It's been so many years. You humans have always wanted to exterminate my beast clan, haven't you? Unfortunately, you humans don't have the strength to do so. Elder Aolan sneered. He seemed to have made meticulous preparations. By the time Dingzhou's warship tore through space and arrived, he had already finished setting up the final spirit design. Hua! Elder Aolan suddenly split into 2. Another doppelganger formed beside him. It was his dermic doppelganger. Xia people. Today, you can just watch as the most amazing genius transcendent in the history of your Xia clan dies in front of you. Elder Aolan laughed heartily as he took a step forward and entered the 100-kilometer area isolated by the seal. His dermic doppelganger remained outside, controlling and maintaining the huge spirit design. The layers of spirit designs were set up by the sorcerer god and the great demon god. They were extraordinary and unpredictable. Clearly, the sorcerer god and the great demon god did not expect to kill Dongbo Shuiying within a breath's time. Therefore, they would rather set up more spirit designs. This time, they had made ample preparations to kill Dongbo Shuiying. Attack! The Palace Lord Chen's roar shook the heavens and earth. The bow of Dingzhou's warship shot out a greenish-white pillar of lightning, which instantly darkened the sky. It became the most dazzling thing in the world, and directly struck the mighty thunder and fire spirit design. The layers of spirit designs merged together as if they were one. The dark clouds in the sky spun, and the lightning kept accumulating. After this terrifying lightning pillar struck down, more than half of its power collapsed, and a small portion of the lightning power was actually guided by the thunder-fire spell formation to the black clouds in the sky, causing more and more lightning to accumulate in the black clouds. Within the 200-mile spherical space that isolated the world, only Elder Aolan, Monarch Qingyan, Spider Queen, and Dongbu Shuiying were here. Dongbu Shuiying, in order to deal with you, the great sorcerer god has specially given me a treasure that can seal off the world. Elder Aolan sneered. Now that this place is completely isolated from the outside world, our space is like a small independent world. Apart from that, the great sorcerer god has paid a great price. Today you will die without a doubt. Is that so? Dongbu Shuiying continued to speak, trying to stall for time. Do it, Elder Aolan said coldly. The purple-haired woman instantly transformed into a giant spider the size of a commoner's house. The spider's entire body was black, but its 8 slender legs were purple. At this moment, the giant spider's eyes were staring coldly at Dongbu Shuiying. Following that, a large number of silk threads shot out from its tail. There were a total of 16 white silk threads, each about the thickness of a finger. They were formed by tens of thousands of smaller silk threads that intertwined with each other in accordance with the profound mysteries of nature. The 16 silk threads instantly streaked across the sky, spanning over 10 miles, and enveloped Dongbu Shuiying. This caused Dongbu Shuiying's expression to change slightly. He definitely could not let himself be entangled by the Spider Queen's silk threads, or he would not be able to escape. Hua! Dongbu Shuiying's figure distorted and instantly disappeared. He entered the mirage, and the white silk threads were unable to entangle him. Humph! Although he could only move within the 200-mile radius of the mirage, it was enough. Among the 3 of them, only Elder Aolan is a transcendent sorcerer. I have to kill him first. Dongbu Shuiying immediately wanted to teleport within the mirage to Elder Aolan's side. However, as Elder Aolan shouted, a strange longsword appeared in front of him. This was a black longsword. The hilt of the sword seemed to be coiled by a venomous snake, and the body of the sword was nearly 1.5 meters long. There were faint spots of blood on the body of the sword, causing the entire longsword to emit faint cries. Ah! In Elder Aolan's left hand, a scroll emitting boundless black gas appeared. He instantly tore the scroll, and the black gas from the scroll directly flowed into the strange longsword. The strange longsword immediately emitted an incomparably terrifying pressure. The pressure instantly enveloped the 200-mile radius of the sealed world, and even the mirage was penetrated. Wang, at this moment the entire small world faintly trembled, and even the space within it froze. Not only the real world but even the space within the mirage was frozen, causing Dongbu Shuiying, who was attempting to teleport, to be unable to do so. Dongbu Shuiying's expression changed greatly. Dongbu Shuiying, this is the great sorcerer god's sword. It has followed the sorcerer god for so many years. You should be proud to die under the sorcerer god's sword. Elder Aolan's voice reverberated within the sealed world. Dongbu Shuiying's heart skipped a beat. The pressure of the sorcerer god's sword was too terrifying. This was the most terrifying deity equipment he had ever seen, far surpassing those he had seen before. Perhaps even the strongest deity equipment of the Xia people, Senior Snow, might not be able to match up to this sorcerer god's sword. Moreover, Elder Aolan seemed to have crushed a mysterious scroll to strengthen the sorcerer god's sword. This sorcerer god's sword has yet to be unsheathed, but it has already frozen the real world and even the mirage. Dongbu Shuiying trembled in fear. Some powerful deities were able to attack the mirage, and this sorcerer god's sword had already begun to display some of the deity's abilities. Xiao! Dongbu Shuiying immediately flew at high speed within the mirage. As he neared Elder Aolan, he immediately waved his hand and sent out 2 streams of light, which directly entered the real world. They were the Gold Man and the Green-Armored Protector. Kill Elder Aolan. Dongbu Shuiying understood that the most dangerous person was Elder Aolan. Without him, he might not even be able to control the sorcerer god's sword. One must know that a terrifying deity equipment like this had extremely high requirements for its wielder. just like Senior Snow. Only Jing Qiu could use it when she became a demigod. Humph! Monarch Green Nightmare, who was standing beside Elder Aolan, coldly snorted. He held his shield with one hand and suddenly pushed it forward. Boom! The surrounding space was pushed forward like a wave. It was as if the surrounding space was being pushed forward, pressing down on the Gold Man and the Green Armored Protector. Monarch Green Nightmare, ranked 4th on the demigod list, was also in existence who had condensed a true deity heart. His close combat ability was extremely terrifying. His main task today was to protect Elder Aolan. Chi. Densely packed white threads immediately enveloped the surroundings, including Elder Aolan's. A stream of light flew out from Elder Aolan's wrist and transformed into a cold, black-robed woman who stood beside him. She was also a deity warrior. Seeing this, Dongbo Shuiying's heart turned cold. The Spider Queen, Monarch Green Nightmare, and a deity warrior were protecting Elder Aolan at the same time? One must know that Elder Aolan cultivated the true meaning of life, and had long since attained an immortal body. It was already very difficult to kill him. Yet, he still had 3 experts protecting him. Dongbo Shuiying, the sorcerer god's saber can attack any world. It doesn't matter if you hide in the shadows or the mirage, you won't be able to escape the sorcerer god's saber. Die! Elder Aolan controlled the sorcerer god's saber. With a terrifying pressure, the sorcerer god's saber suppressed both the real world and the mirage. The sorcerer god's saber even flew directly into the mirage. Elder Aolan also closed his eyes. He was still unable to rely on his own cultivation to enter the mirage. At this moment, his consciousness was placed on the sorcerer god's saber. With the help of the sorcerer god's saber, he could faintly sense that mysterious world. Although Elder Aolan didn't know that this was the mirage, it didn't stop him from attacking. With the help of the sorcerer god's saber, he could sense that there was an aura of life within that mysterious world. That was the aura of life belonging to Dongbo Shuiying. What kind of world is that? My power has to pass through the sorcerer god's saber in order to attack the life within that world. In that world, it will be much more difficult for me to control the sorcerer god's saber. I'm afraid that I can only unleash 60% of the sorcerer god's saber's power. Fortunately, this was within the expectations of the sorcerer god and the great demon god. This Dongbo Shuiying is too terrifying. How old is he? If he reaches a higher cultivation realm in the future, there's almost no hope of killing him. Elder Aolan's killing intent intensified. Die! He controlled the sorcerer god's saber and charged forward. Dongbo Shuiying's expression changed greatly. When the mysterious sorcerer god's saber directly entered the mirage, his expression changed. He already knew that some of the more powerful demigods might be able to attack the mirage. However, when the sorcerer god's saber directly entered, he still felt pressured. Rumble! The sorcerer god's saber came crashing down. The space within the mirage was completely frozen. As it approached, an invisible force began to bind and suppress him, greatly reducing his flying speed. On the other hand, the sorcerer god's saber's surface was speckled with spots of blood and faint wails. This caused Dongbo Shuiying's heart to palpitate. He even had a feeling that if he were to be touched by the sorcerer god's saber, the result would be unbearable. Chapter 262. Dongbo Shuiying's figure distorted, and he instantly entered the real world from the mirage realm. At this moment, the greenish-gray fog rushed towards Dongbo Shuiying, and Dongbo Shuiying took the initiative to meet it. In an instant, the greenish-gray fog completely enveloped Dongbo Shuiying's body, forming a thick layer of greenish-gray armor on his body. This layer of greenish-gray armor protected every part of Dongbo Shuiying's body. Even his eyes turned green. The greenish-gray armor guard was famous for its ability to protect others. It could gather and scatter like the fog, and it could also transform into a layer of armor. That was why Palace Lord Chun had sent it to protect Dongbo Shuiying. The sorcerer god's saber entered the real world from the mirage realm and continued its pursuit. The distance between it and Dongbo Shuiying rapidly shortened. As the distance shortened, the suppressive force became stronger, causing Dongbo Shuiying to feel extremely uncomfortable. Gold Demon, block it! Dongbo Shuiying ordered, and his figure distorted as he escaped into the mirage realm. Yes, the Gold Man was incomparably valiant. and he faced the sorcerer god's saber head-on. The sorcerer god's saber was as fast as lightning. Pung! In a single exchange, the gold man was struck in the chest, and he was sent flying. The difference between the two was simply too great. Although the gold man's offensive strength could be ranked in the top 3 of the demigods, the terrifying sorcerer god's saber that Elder Aolan controlled could unleash strength comparable to that of a true deity, especially when Elder Aolan had crushed a precious scroll, strengthening the power of the scroll, causing the sorcerer god's saber to become even more terrifying. The real world, the Mirage realm, even the space around them froze. The formless energy could even directly suppress and bind the target. The gold man was defeated in a single exchange. You combat soldier, don't get in the way. Accompanied by a sinister laugh, the Spider Empress released countless silk threads that wrapped around the gold man who was flying backwards. The silk threads wrapped around the gold man, turning him into a white cocoon. The gold man struggled and roared, but he was unable to break free in an instant. Inside the ethereal extent, Shuang flew at a high speed, trying his best to buy time. He couldn't care less about the gold man now. Most importantly, in the Mirage, other lifeforms couldn't really fight. In fact, other lifeforms wouldn't even be able to enter without him carrying it. The gold man could not fight on his own in the Mirage. In the Mirage, he was not even as useful as a shield. Even the green armored guards had to transform into armor and wear it on Shuang's body to follow Shuang in the ethereal extent. Ha ha ha, Shuang, stop struggling. Elder Aolan's laughter echoed within the 200 li radius. The distance between the sorcerer god and Shuang shortened rapidly. In the blink of an eye, he was already 100 meters behind him. The speed of the weapon was much faster than Shuang's flying speed. Change! Shuang's figure turned illusory. Shwa shwa shwa. One Shuang suddenly turned into 10 Shuangs. The 10 Shuangs were all wearing green-gray armor, and were doing their best to escape. Interesting. There's actually another life aura, a slightly weaker one. Elder Aolan used the sorcerer god's saber to sense the Mirage. Other than the original Shuang's aura, he could also sense another slightly weaker aura. As for the illusory figures, they couldn't fool the sorcerer god's saber at all. After grasping the true meaning of Mirage, one could hide in the Mirage and use the Mirage doppelganger to kill the enemy without having to personally attack. Among these illusory figures, there was a Mirage doppelganger. The 10 Shuangs were all fleeing, but the sorcerer god's saber didn't hesitate to chase after the real one. It's actually unable to fool the sorcerer god's saber. Shuang's expression changed slightly. Immediately, the Mirage doppelganger in the illusory figures took the initiative to attack. Kill. The Mirage doppelganger wielded the transformed stellar fire cloud spear and blocked the sorcerer god's saber. Sela, wherever the sorcerer god's saber passed, the Mirage doppelganger, including the transformed stellar fire cloud spear, were completely shattered. Even though I'm only at the first stage of the true meaning of Mirage, this Mirage doppelganger still has the strength of a demigod. Yet it can't even affect its speed. Shuang didn't have time to escape. Thus, he dispersed the illusory figures and turned around with the stellar fire cloud spear to block the sorcerer god's saber. Break! The spear spun. Rumble, just like the rotation of the earth and stars, it blocked the sorcerer god's saber. As the spear spun, it carried a strange rhythm, trying its best to guide the sorcerer god's saber. Pung! The sorcerer god's saber and the spear clashed. Even though the spear was imbued with the true meaning of star and possessed great power, even the gold man, who had the combat power of the top 3 demigods, was sent flying in a single exchange, let alone the stellar fire cloud spear. Even though it wasn't a head-on clash, it was like a giant dragon running past, producing a violent gale that could send a small white rabbit flying. A spear art that didn't even have the power of a top 10 demigod couldn't affect the sorcerer god's saber at all. The sorcerer god's saber continued to pierce forward. The stellar fire cloud spear was knocked to the side. Boo! The sorcerer god's saber stabbed into Shuang's chest. Chi. The green armor on the surface of his body was incomparably tough, but the sorcerer god's saber still managed to pierce through it, and its power was immediately reduced by 50%. Even a peak stage demigod could forget about breaking through this greenish-gray armor. However, the sorcerer god's saber was too powerful. After piercing through this layer of armor, its power was reduced by 50%, and it stabbed into another layer of energy. That was a tough layer of energy filled with life. Purple lightning protection. Dongbu Shuiying anxiously sensed it. In this desperate situation, he had already activated his protective ring. This ring was one of the 2 life-saving treasures that Palace Lord Chen had given him. One was the green armor protector, and the other was the ring that the Purple Thunder Emperor had refined after he became a deity. Once activated, it would form a purple lightning protection. It was comparable to a full-force attack from the Purple Thunder Emperor. This was a full-force attack from a deity, and its power was immense. The Purple Thunder Emperor was an existence that had become a deity with a grade 3 deity heart, and his power was extremely high. Demigods would normally need the time to brew a cup of tea to exhaust this purple lightning protection. However, the attack this time was the sorcerer god's saber. Even after its power was reduced by half by the green armor, its power was still comparable to that of a deity. Pooh! The sorcerer god's saber stabbed into the purple lightning protection. Dongbu Shuiying's expression changed, and the purple lightning on the surface of his body surged. In an instant, a small portion of it was lost. I've lost less than 10% of it. However, based on the sorcerer god's saber's power, 10 or so strikes should be enough to exhaust the purple lightning protection. He actually managed to block it? Elder Ao Lan, who was controlling the sorcerer god's saber, could clearly sense a surge of energy blocking the sorcerer god's saber. Elder Ao Lan revealed a cold smile. The sorcerer god's saber is a deity weapon that was originally planned to be used. This time, with the support of the precious scroll, its power is incomparably tyrannical. I refuse to believe that the treasures on his body can block it more than a few times. Kill. Boom. 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 Within the mirage, the sorcerer god's saber's power surged. Under the pressure of the invisible energy, Dongbu Shuiying's speed became very slow. He had no way of resisting the sorcerer god's saber, and could only rely on the green armor protector and the purple lightning protection to resist it. Chi! Every strike pierced through the green armor and the purple lightning protection, continuously consuming the energy left behind by the Purple Thunder Emperor. This Elder Ao Lan is using the sorcerer god's saber, and I can't even resist it. Dongbu Shuiying looked outside the mirage at the gold man, who had been wrapped into a white cocoon. The gold man was currently struggling, but wasn't he the same? No matter how much he struggled, the sorcerer god's saber pierced his body time and time again. The gold man's body was indestructible. At the very least he wouldn't die. But how long could he last? Seriously, he couldn't think of a way. His direct combat ability wasn't even in the top 10 of the demigod rankings. Now that he couldn't even escape into the mirage, what else could he do? Outside Razorwind City, the towering Dingzhou's warship floated in midair. A group of demigods from the Xia people were working together to break the formation. Rumble Jingqiu, Puyangbo, Yufeng Yuanqing, and the others could only watch from afar. They watched nervously and expectantly. Hurry! Palace Lord Chen bellowed. Palace Lord Chen. Suddenly, a message was transmitted to Palace Lord Chen's communication wristband. I can't hold on much longer. This time, I'm afraid I won't be able to escape this calamity. I left a message in the communication wristband of my Qi clone. If I really die, help me pass it on to my family in Jingqiu. It was a simple message, yet it contained despair and reluctance. Dongbu Shuiying. I will definitely save you, definitely. Palace Lord Chen seemed to have gone berserk. Chapter 263. Within the Dingzhou warship, Palace Lord Chen looked at Mountain Lord He who was beside him. Mountain Lord He was using all his strength to control the entire Dingzhou warship. Mountain Lord He. Palace Lord Chen looked at Mountain Lord He. Snow Eagle can't hold on much longer. Mountain Lord He's expression changed. It was too fast. So fast that they were caught unprepared. Elder Ao Lan had just used the sorcerer god's saber, and Dongbu Shuiying was already at his limit? But these arrays are very hard to break. Our Xia people's demigods are already doing their best, Mountain Lord He said anxiously. But Snow Eagle, we can't just watch him die. We can't. We have to save him at all costs. Palace Lord Chan nodded. I've already sent over the clan protection treasure from the Infernal Palace. At the same time, I've also sent a message to that outsider. Outsider? Mountain Lord, he was startled. Him? Agreed to his conditions. His realm is higher than ours, and his horizons are wider than ours. I hope that he can help us break these arrays as soon as possible, Palace Lord Chan said. No matter what, we have to protect Dongbu Shuang. Yes, Mountain Lord, he nodded. As for Dongbu Shuang, this young transcendent Palace Lord Chan and Mountain Lord, he both had complicated feelings. He had risen in a shocking manner. His talent was unquestionably the number one in the history of the Xia people. Other than his shocking talent, he had also done his best for the Xia people, contributing an unprecedented amount of merit. Just by destroying the demonic faction headquarters, destroying the physical body of the great demon god's clone, this merit was enough to overshadow all the deities in the history of the Xia people. He had done so much for the Xia people, but the Xia people were unable to do anything for this young transcendent. Whether it was for Dongbu Shuiying's enormous potential, or because they felt indebted to him, they all wanted to save Dongbu Shuiying. On an island in the middle of the ocean, within the flourishing city, countless mortals were living their own lives. Some were drunk and dreaming, while others were working hard for their families. They had no idea that the transcendents of the Xia people were fighting. The white-haired old man sat next to a roadside stall, eating a steaming hot steamed bun that had just come out of the steamer. He looked at the bustling street next to him as people came and went. Beside him, the young attendant was also sitting at the side. He was also looking at his master with a strange expression. Was this ordinary man to really that delicious? Even his master, who had earth-shattering strength, liked to eat it so much? The white-haired old man's gaze was calm, but there was a hint of loneliness in it. Meishan Master. Suddenly, a message was transmitted over. I am the Infernal Palace head of the Xia people. Palace Lord Chun. The lonely old man was a little surprised. Transcendent Dongbu Shuiying of the Xia people is currently under siege by the Beast Clan, and is in grave danger. There are layers upon layers of arrays around the area that the Xia people cannot break in a short period of time. We need your help. According to our previous agreement, if you help, the Xia people will give you all the information on Crimson Rock Mountain. Palace Lord Chun transmitted. The lonely old man was a guest from another world. When he first descended, he had already come into contact with the Xia people and met with Palace Lord Chan. He hoped to obtain information from the Xia people regarding Crimson Rock Mountain. One must know, every generation of demigods of the Xia people was strong enough. Before they reached the end of their lifespan, the Infernal Palace head would inform them of the existence of Crimson Rock Mountain. They would go to Crimson Rock Mountain and fight for their lives. Before entering Crimson Rock Mountain, the demigods of the Xia people would leave their chi doppelgangers, magic doppelgangers, outside before entering Crimson Rock Mountain with their true bodies. After entering Crimson Rock Mountain, it was filled with dangers of death. Those who were weak would probably die the moment they entered. Every generation 2 or 3 would enter. Normally, they would be at the level of Mountain Lord He Si Kong Yang or Chao Qing. Chao Qing had also condensed a true deity heart, which was why his strength had reached the threshold that the Xia people recognized. Over 1,000,000 years, every 3,000 years was a generation. Every generation there would be people who entered. While they were adventuring, their chi doppelgangers, magic doppelgangers, in the outside world would simultaneously record a large amount of information. Thus, the Xia people had also recorded a large amount of information regarding Crimson Rock Mountain. This was something that the lonely old man, the Meishan Master, really wanted to obtain. However, the Xia people viewed it as a treasure. How could they easily give it to a guest from another world? The Meishan Master was very strong. However, if the Xia people were truly angered, they could mobilize the strength of their entire race and their clan's protection treasure. The Meishan Master would have a headache. Thus, both sides had always lived in harmony. Information on Crimson Rock Mountain? The lonely old man's eyes lit up. This Dongbu Shuiying, where is he? This is the address. Palace Lord Chun immediately sent over a map. Come quickly. Dongbu Shuiying can't hold on much longer. Wait for me here. The lonely old man stood up. His figure distorted. Space was like water as he directly drilled into the water and disappeared. A few seconds later, outside Razor Wind City, the enormous Dingzhou battleship floated in the air. The demigods of the Xia people were all in the air, working together to break the array. In the depths of the array, Elder Aolan's magic doppelganger stood there coldly. "Who?" The space rippled like water, and the lonely old man appeared out of nowhere. So fast. Within the Dingzhou battleship, Palace Lord Chan and Mountain Lord He were both speechless. They had just invited this guest from another world over, and he had already arrived? According to what they knew, this guest from another world usually lived in a county city on an island in the ocean. Such a long distance and such speed was even faster than tearing through space. Meishan Master. Palace Lord Chan immediately left the Dingzhou battleship and came to the side of the lonely old man. At this time the other demigods of the Xia people also noticed this unfamiliar demigod, but since Palace Lord Chan had appeared, they did not question him. What a powerful array! The desolate old man was looking at the layers of spirit designs. Wherever his gaze passed, ripples would appear in the space as he carefully observed each and every spirit design. Thunder and fire were vast and mighty. High up in the sky, black clouds were constantly accumulating lightning. How is it? Palace Lord Chan asked anxiously. Sealing and isolating the world? The lonely old man looked from afar and transmitted. In order to kill Dongbua Shuiying, you actually use such a precious treasure to seal and isolate the world? This is the method of a god. Your Xia people, this Dongbua Shuiying is truly amazing. Of the foreign side, Elder Aolan and Monarch Qingyan are ranked 3rd and 4th on the demigod list, right? The one beside them is the Spider Queen from your records, and there's also a deity warrior. So many experts, so many treasures, arrays, all to deal with a young transcendent. At this time he had also guessed that this Dongbua Shuiying was most likely the expert he had discovered walking in the mirage. I'm asking if you can break the array? Palace Lord Chan transmitted anxiously. I'm thinking, don't be anxious. The lonely old man thought for a full 10 seconds before transmitting. I can only do my best to help you. I estimate that with the strength of your Xia people and me, it will take the time to brew a cup of tea. The time to brew a cup of tea? Palace Lord Chin's expression changed. This guest from another world was indeed helpful, but it would take too long. Once Elder Aolan made his move, Dongbua Shuiying would not be able to hold on for much longer. The time to brew a cup of tea? Do you need me to help? The lonely old man asked. If you need me to help, give me the information now. If you don't want me to help, I'll leave now. He was used to seeing life and death. Countless people had died, including his close friends and loved ones. To this Dongbua Shuiying, who he had never met before, he did not care if he lived or died. Yes, Palace Lord Chan gritted his teeth and transmitted. You must do your best. If you don't do your best, the Xia people will not let you off. The lonely old man smiled. Now that I've received the information, I will naturally do my best. Although he could not do anything to the Xia people, he was still confident that he could protect himself. However, the threat from Palace Lord Chan made him feel that the Xia people valued this Dongbua Shuiying. Within the sealed and isolated world of 200 kilometers, within the mirage, no matter how hard Dongbua Shuiying tried to escape, he could not escape from the sorcerer god's sword. He could only endure it passively and resist it head-on. He was still struggling with all his might, like a pitiful bug struggling in a spider's web. Chapter 264. Dongbua Shuiying was not afraid of death. Ever since he was young, he had been ruthless to himself. For his little brother, he dared to enter the mountain range of desolation to fight against the beasts. His temperament had been formed since he was young, and now his heart was as sharp as a blade. He was decisive and even more ruthless to himself. Even in the face of despair, he remained calm and never gave up. He was still desperately searching for a chance of survival. However, he also understood that he would not be able to escape this calamity this time. His parents still had his little brother to take care of, and his little brother was already very mature. Thus Dongbua Shuiying was not too worried. Instead, he felt that he owed Jingqiu the most. Jingqiu had always been by his side. From the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world to the Snowrock Castle, the two of them did not fight fiercely, but they knew each other very well. They did not even need to speak. They could understand each other's thoughts just by looking at each other's eyes. However, he had not given Jing Qiu a proper status. In the past, he was not anxious at all, as the two of them were too young among transcendents. Jing Qiu, I'm sorry, Dongbo Shuiying murmured. However, it's not that easy to kill me, Dongbo Shuiying. Dongbo Shuiying's eyes were filled with madness. His life was burning as he held onto the stellar fire cloud spear with both hands, trying his best to block the attack. With a turn of the spear, it was like the rotation of the stars. Defeated, the spear was as fast as lightning. Extreme piercing blocked the attack. However, the sorcerer god's saber was majestic and unstoppable. Even though Dongbo Shuiying's spear techniques were faintly improving, it was useless. Even if his extreme piercing, true meaning of star, and true meaning of mirage were all at the peak of the first stage, he was still powerless against the sorcerer god's saber. The disparity between the two was too great. The sorcerer god's saber was tyrannical. It forcefully pierced through the green armor and pierced the protective layer of water, causing the protective layer to weaken. This protective item has been depleted by more than half. Dongbo Shuiying thought to himself. The purple lightning protection had long since been exhausted. Fortunately, he had obtained countless treasures from the demonic faction headquarters when he killed High Priest Shi Yun. He had once told the Palace Lord Chan that they would decide on the distribution of the treasures after this. However, he did not expect that he would be ambushed not long after sending Pu Yongbo back. The treasures of the demonic faction headquarters that could be destroyed had long since been destroyed. There were also unusable divine artifacts, a large number of demigod artifacts, saint-rank weapons, and other special treasures. For example, powerful formation tools that could be used once, similar to the purple lightning protection. Because if it could be destroyed, High Priest Shi Yun had already destroyed it. Even though Shuiying had obtained the entire treasure cove, he could only find 6 protective treasures that he could use. Only 6? The purple lightning protection barely lasted for 10 seconds. Controlling the sorcerer god's saber in the Mirage realm was rather taxing on Elder Aolan. The purple lightning protection only lasted for 10 seconds. How long could 6 of them last? From Dongbo Shuiying's investigations, these 6 treasures were not much better than the purple lightning protection. Some were stronger while others were weaker. Snow Eagle, you must hold on. We need the time it takes to brew a cup of tea. In that time we will definitely break the formation and save you. We will also do our best to speed it up. You must hold on. Palace Lord Chen's message was transmitted to the Qi doppelganger. The time it takes to brew a cup of tea? Dongbo Shuiying gritted his teeth. In the past, he felt that the time it took to brew a cup of tea was very short. But now, every second was unbearable. The time it takes to brew a cup of tea? If he used all these protective treasures, he wouldn't even be able to hold on for half that amount of time. Dongbo Shuiying is approaching us. Through the sorcerer god's saber, Elder Aolan could sense Dongbo Shuiying's position. He discovered that while Dongbo Shuiying was being attacked, he was also approaching them from the Mirage realm. Keep your distance from him. He is currently at his most insane state. Elder Aolan transmitted. He is being suppressed by the sorcerer god's saber, so his flying speed is slower than ours. As long as we maintain our flight, he will never be able to catch up to us. Elder Aolan, Monarch Qingyan, the Spider Queen, and the cold black-clothed woman all maintained their distance. Suddenly a hand appeared out of nowhere, and a black bottle flew out. The stopper was already removed, and a surging black flame flew out of the black bottle. This black flame brought with it a terrifying coldness as it frantically spread in all directions. In the blink of an eye, the black flame had filled an area of 200 li. This is the devil flame of the abyss. Elder Aolan frowned. Trash from the demonic faction. Not only are they of no help, they even sent the treasure into the hands of the Xia people. Monarch Qingyan coldly snorted. This devil flame was not deliberately controlled, and its power is spread out over 200 li. I alone can block it. If it was controlled by an expert who cultivates in dark magic, its power would be much greater. I'm afraid we would have to hide inside the flying ship. Monarch Qingyan stood there. his transcendent qi surging like a surging wave. It spread in all directions, completely protecting an area of 100 meters. The black flame was unable to penetrate it. Through the mirage, Dongbue Shuiying watched Elder Aolan, and the others easily blocked the devil flame. Dongbue Shuiying frowned. He did not cultivate in dark magic, so he could only open the stopper and release the flame. He was unable to control it, so there was nothing he could do even if the monarch Qingyan blocked it. It's a pity that among the treasures I obtained from the demonic faction headquarters, this is the only offensive treasure. Dongbue Shuiying inwardly shook his head. He also understood that some of the more powerful offensive treasures were most likely spell scrolls that were easier to refine. Moreover, spell scrolls were the easiest to destroy, and even if there really was a spell scroll, Dongbue Shuiying was not a transcendent mage, so there was no way he could use it. The Sorcerer God's sword is tyrannical and unstoppable. Comparatively speaking, Elder Aolan and the others are slightly weaker. Even so, the four of them are not people I can deal with. Moreover, even if Elder Aolan and the others kill me, they will still think of a way to escape from the pursuit of the demigods of the Xia people. Therefore, killing Elder Aolan and the others is simply unrealistic. Dongbue Shuiying also understood that it would be a waste not to throw away the bottle of Abyss Devil Flame. If he were to die, wouldn't the treasure fall into the hands of Elder Aolan and the others? Throwing it away might have some effect. Boom! 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 The Sorcerer God's sword carried a majestic might as it attacked again and again. Time passed second by second. Dongbue Shuiying relied on the green armor and the protective treasure left behind by the demonic faction headquarters to barely hold on. The protective treasure won't last long. Soon, I will have to rely on my demigod robe. Dongbue Shuiying thought, I need to change to a better one. His current protective robe was exchanged with contribution points from the Water Taoist faction. It was a mid-grade demigod rank Waterfire cloud robe. It was considered very ordinary among demigod rank robes. Back when he was eradicating the demon lair, he killed a rank 5 black-clothed demon. That demigod robe could completely protect every part of his body, and its might was slightly better than the Waterfire cloud robe. However, the Stellar Fire cloud spear still managed to pierce a large hole in it, causing it to break. Top-grade demigod rank robe armor. Dongbue Shuiying immediately sifted through the treasures and obtained the entire treasury. These demigod rank equipment were the hardest to damage, so almost all of them fell into Dongbue Shuiying's hands. There was a huge pile of top-grade demigod rank equipment. Although, even if he wore the top-grade demigod rank armor, it would be hard for him to escape death in front of the Sorcerer God's sword. If he could increase his chances of survival, then he would work hard. With a thought, Dongbue Shuiying retracted the Waterfire cloud robe, and a new robe appeared on his skin. This was a purplish gold robe, and it could completely protect every single vital part of his body. Snow Eagle. Suddenly, a ripple entered Dongbue Shuiying's mind. Senior warrior. Dongbue Shuiying immediately understood that the green armor protector was communicating with him. If you want to change into a demigod rank robe, I have to remind you. This kind of fully enclosed demigod rank robe is very soft. Its defense can be pierced through, but against a terrifying attack, this demigod rank robe's effect is very weak. I'm afraid it can only reduce the impact by 10% to 20%. The green armor protector transmitted his voice. The Sorcerer God's sword is the Sorcerer God's personal sword. It is much more terrifying than ordinary god rank equipment. Even though it has been weakened multiple times, it might not be able to pierce through your demigod rank robe, but the force of impact it contains will probably instantly shatter your body, and it will even shatter your body into particles. Dongbue Shuiying's expression changed. That's right. He understood this point, but at the very least, this demigod rank robe was much stronger than his Waterfire cloud robe. Do I need to change to a fixed armor? Dongbue Shuiying transmitted his voice. Demigod rank armors were usually forged using precious materials. They were extremely tough and their shape was fixed. At most they could change their size slightly. Their defense was extremely strong. But most armors had many gaps, and some even exposed the throat and face. It was impossible to protect every single part of the body. A fixed armor might be able to reduce 70% to 80% of the impact. But if it doesn't protect every single part of your body, the Sorcerer God's sword might be able to kill you in an instant. If you wear these two types of armors, you will definitely die. The green armored protector transmitted his voice. Other than these two main types of demigod rank robes, there are some special ones. Protect every single part of the body? Protect every single part of the body? These two types were the most common ones. Special ones? Yes. You need to find something that can reduce the impact, but it must also be completely enclosed. The green armored protector transmitted his voice. In the deity world, I've seen all kinds of plant-type armors. Take a look and see if there are any in the demonic faction headquarters demonic artifact storehouse. If you can find it, you might have a chance to live. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Chapter 265. Although there was a huge pile of demigod rank armors and robes, Dongbu Shuiying's filtering speed was extremely fast. It only took him 3 seconds to filter through all of them. Finally, a special set of armor was selected by Dongbu Shuiying. This was a set of golden armor, and there were no runes on the surface of the armor. Refine. In an instant his transcendent Do Qi was refined. The robes were put away and replaced with this golden armor. This golden armor was like flowing metal. It flowed along Dongbu Shuiying's skin, instantly covering every inch of Dongbu Shuiying's body. This flowing metal and his skin had completely fused into one. Even Dongbu Shuiying's pupils were covered in a layer of gold, turning them into golden pupils. The demonic faction headquarters actually has a set of flowing metal armor. This is great. The green armored guard was also excited. The demonic faction, which had been deeply rooted in the world of the Xia people for a long time, was truly extraordinary to be able to find such a rare set of armor. I never thought that the demonic faction headquarters would actually have such a treasure. Perhaps there's hope for me to escape today. Dongbu Shuiying was also excited. There was hope for him to escape today. 1 second passed after another. The flowing light barrier around Dongbu Shuiying's body continuously weakened under the attacks of the sorcerer god's saber that penetrated the green armor. This is the last one. Dongbu Shuiying's heart was filled with nervousness. His protective ring, as well as the 6 protective items he had found in the demon faction's treasury, had all been used up. Without a sound, the flowing light completely dissipated. It's coming. Dongbu Shuiying stared at the sorcerer god's saber that was about to attack him again. The sorcerer god's saber produced an invisible force that suppressed his body, causing Dongbu Shuiying's movement speed to decrease by a lot. Although the stellar fire cloud spear did not have much effect, Dongbu Shuiying still made another move. Every bit of interference he could get from the sorcerer god's saber was a sliver better, bringing him closer to survival. I must resist. Dongbu Shuiying's eyes were filled with an intense desire to live. Boom! The sorcerer god's sword, with the power of a divine soul, once again knocked away the stellar fire cloud spear and pierced through the green armor. The divine world warrior's green armor had weakened the sorcerer god's sword by 50%. But the remaining power of the sorcerer god's sword, although it had been greatly weakened, it still reached the threshold of the god realm. Even the purple lightning protective wall had only withstood 16 sword strikes. Could this peak demigod armor from the demonic faction's treasury, the precious flowing gold armor, withstand it? With great difficulty, the sorcerer god's sword forcefully pierced through the flowing gold armor. What was a flowing gold armor? It was flowing by itself. Just like cutting water with a knife, the water would flow even more. It didn't matter if it was pierced, as long as it wasn't pierced through. The flowing gold armor was also doing its best to squeeze out this foreign object. The power of the sorcerer god's sword was rapidly weakening as it pierced into the armor. However, the flowing gold armor was still a thin layer. The sorcerer god's sword had completely pierced through the armor and into Dongbu Shuiying's body. In the distant sky above Razor Wind City, Jingqiu, Puyangbo, Yuanqing, Yufeng, Zhangpeng, and Xidong were watching from afar. They were too weak to help. Junior apprentice sister Yu. Junior apprentice brother Snow Eagle will definitely be fine. His combat power is formidable, so the Xia people must have long given him a protective treasure. The Beast clan can't possibly kill him, Zhangpeng said. Yufeng and the others were secretly anxious. Ever since the news of Dongbu Shuiying eradicating 5 demon lairs and grasping a grade 2 true meaning was made public, They could guess that the Xia people must have given Dongbu Shuiying a protective treasure. Could it be that the Beast clan didn't know about this? Grand Elder Aolan, Monarch Qing Yan, and the mysterious purple-haired woman had worked together. Now they had even set up layers of arrays to defend against the attacks of the transcendence of the Xia people. All for the sake of killing Dongbu Shuiying. How could the Beast clan's preparations not be sufficient? Everyone understood this point, just that no one was willing to expose it. Senior apprentice Brother Snow Eagle will definitely be fine. Jing Qiu raised her head and looked into the distance. He will definitely be fine. He hasn't married me yet. AI. Pu Yangbo gritted his teeth as he looked into the distance. He hated himself for not being strong enough. Senior apprentice Brother Snow Eagle, Yuan Qing muttered as he looked into the distance. His eyes were filled with tears. Within the layers of arrays within the 100-kilometer space, the abyss devil flame had already dissipated. This Dongbu Shuiying actually managed to block the sorcerer god's saber for so long? Damn it, if he was in the real world I would have killed him long ago. Elder Aolan thought. After the sorcerer god's saber entered the mirage, the difficulty of controlling it had increased. He could only unleash 60% of its power. Thus, from the start until now, Dongbu Shuiying had been attacked by the sorcerer god's saber time and time again. In reality, he had only unleashed 60% of the saber's power. After being weakened by half by the green armor, the remaining 30% of the sorcerer god's saber's power was only 30%. Even 30% was enough to reach the threshold of the god realm. This Xia people are crazy, completely crazy. They are willing to pay any price. Elder Aolan looked outside and saw the wild and ferocious Sikong Yang. Sikong Yang's entire body was emitting dazzling flames like a sun. He was even more dazzling than the sun in the sky. He was ferociously breaking through the arrays. He has even taken out the clan's 9-dragon fire deity armor. Grand Elder, the Xia people are breaking through the arrays much faster than before. They have already broken through 3 of the 12 arrays. The Spider Queen said anxiously. Have they not killed Dongbu Shuiying yet? Once the 12 formations are broken, we'll have to escape. He is just a transcendent saint. I don't believe he can hold on for long with the help of an external object. Elder Aolan's face lit up. He could clearly feel the sorcerer god's saber. The sorcerer god's saber pierced forward. Although its power was continuously weakening, it still managed to pierce through flesh and blood. Success! Elder Aolan revealed an ecstatic expression. Success? Monarch Qing Yan, the Spider Queen, and the black-robed woman all looked over. The sorcerer god's saber has pierced through Dongbu Shuiying's body. Elder Aolan revealed an excited expression. As long as it hits, he will definitely die. Within the mirage, Dongbu Shuiying only had one enemy, and that was the sorcerer god's saber. The sorcerer god's saber was too fast. Although it seemed like a long time had passed, it actually happened in an instant. Shwa! It pierced through the green-armored guardian and the flowing gold armor. Although his body was pierced, Dongbu Shuiying still heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, its power has been exhausted. The remaining power cannot destroy my body. Within the mirage, the sorcerer god's saber only had 60% of its power. The green-armored guardian was weakened by half. The flowing gold armor had almost completely blocked it. It was only a little bit away. Xiao. As the sorcerer god's saber pierced through flesh and blood, it was swiftly pulled out. This Dongbu Shuiying, who had just heaved a sigh of relief, suddenly paled. A mysterious poison instantly spread throughout his entire body from the sorcerer god's saber. It even began to seep into his Dantian's Qi Si. One must know that the Dantian's Qi Si was invisible to the naked eye. Normally, even if one's body was destroyed, the Dantian's Qi Si would not be destroyed. However, this mysterious poison easily seeped into his body. The transcendent Qi in his Dantian's Qi Si surged violently as it instinctively tried to resist. However, it was useless. The mysterious poison continued to seep into his body. However, this was not fatal. The most fatal thing was that this mysterious poison was frantically seeping into every bone and muscle cell in his body. It had even invaded the most basic particles of his body. Dongbu Shuiying's head was instantly corroded. His eyes and brain were instantly destroyed. An unprecedented pain caused his soul to tremble. At his current state, even if his head was destroyed, his soul would not be affected. However, the pain brought about by this mysterious poison was too terrifying. Dongbu Shuiying was in so much pain that he almost lost consciousness. I must stay conscious. I must hold on. I must hold on. Once he lost consciousness, the flowing gold armor without transcendent qi would not be able to unleash such miraculous power. More importantly, once he lost consciousness, he would be able to leave the mirage realm and enter the real world. I must stay conscious. Dongbu Shuiying roared in anger. His soul was roaring in rage. The mysterious poison had also seeped into his body. Dongbu Shuiying tried to repel it, but it was impossible for him to repel it. He could feel the mysterious poison, but he could not repel it. It had seeped into every part of his body. Only his soul was not affected. However, he was still enduring a terrifying pain. This pain was something that even Dongbu Shuiying did not dare to imagine. However, he still had to maintain a trace of consciousness. It's destroying my body. After the mysterious poison seeped into every single particle of his body, the particles started to be damaged. Dongbu Shuiying immediately used his life force to allow the particles to recover. I must hold on. This mysterious poison is terrifying, but it's destroying the particles at a much slower rate. When an expert attacked, the power of a single move would be able to shatter the particles of his body. Even the life force of the undying body would not be able to withstand it. However, this mysterious poison was slowly seeping into his body. As it seeped into his body, it was also destroying the particles at a much slower rate. Stay conscious, stay conscious. With my undying body's recovery speed, I will be able to keep up with the speed of its destruction. Dongbu Shuiying gritted his teeth. The undying body could also recover his life force. Only by destroying his entire body in a short period of time would he be able to deplete his life force rapidly. As for the destructive power of the poison, the undying body was more than enough to withstand it. As long as I stay conscious, I will be able to live until the Xia people arrive. Wake up! Dongbu Shuiying was in extreme pain. His soul was roaring in anger, trying his best to hold on. At this moment he still did not know how terrifying was this mysterious poison. Chapter 266. Elder Aolan was extremely confident. As long as it hits him, he will definitely die. Elder Aolan said. This Dongbu Shuiying is a human, and a saint-tier transcendent at that. He probably hasn't achieved an undying body. Once the sorcerer god's saber hits him, the terrifying sorcerer god's poison will engulf his entire body. His brain will also start to crack and he will. Elder Aolan's expression changed. Through the sorcerer god's saber in the mirage, he could sense that although Dongbu Shuiying's aura was chaotic, it still existed. He's not dead yet? Elder Aolan couldn't believe it. That's the sorcerer god's poison. The mighty sorcerer god is most proficient in poison. Even if it's just a trace of it on his sword, it's enough to kill him. Could it be that he has an undying body? Monarch Qingyan said. According to our intelligence, he awakened his primordial bloodline when he was immortal. Perhaps he has cultivated an undying body? He has 1,000,000 kilograms of origin stones to cultivate. Elder Aolan couldn't believe it. Even if he has an undying body, it's useless. Elder Aolan's eyes were filled with a vicious glint. This is the sorcerer god's poison. It seems that the previous strike did not contain enough poison. If we let more poison into his body, he will die even faster. Logically speaking, if an ordinary demigod is struck by the saber, the pain alone would be enough to make them lose consciousness. Yet this Dongbu Shuiying is still resisting? His willpower is strong enough. As expected of the most talented transcendent of the Xia people. But killing a transcendent like this is even more satisfying. In the mirage, the sorcerer god's saber attacked once again. Under the terrifying pain, Dongbu Shuiying's soul trembled. He tried his best to stay awake, but he could no longer wield the stellar fire cloud spear. The mysterious poison seeped into every particle of his body, gradually destroying it while the particles naturally recovered. Thus, Shuiying's entire body could remain intact. His body had not truly shattered. Boom! The sorcerer god's sword pierced through the green armored guardian and the flowing gold armor. Its power had been greatly weakened, but it still managed to pierce into Dongbo Shuiying's body. Another wave of cold energy seeped into Dongbo Shuiying's body. It was the mysterious poison. Instantly, the concentration of the mysterious poison in Dongbo Shuiying's body increased, and the corrosive effect on every part of his body increased. The pain that was transmitted to his soul also intensified. Dongbo Shuiying tried his best to stay awake. He was not afraid of the pain, but not good. The poison is starting to corrode my body faster. Dongbo Shuiying said anxiously. Boom boom boom. After 7 stabs, the concentration of the mysterious poison in Dongbo Shuiying's body had reached a peak. No matter how many times he stabbed Dongbo Shuiying, it would not increase anymore. But at this point, the damage caused by the poison was extremely fast. Dongbo Shuiying's immortal body could no longer keep up with the rate of recovery. He could only exhaust the life force hidden within his body. I must hold on. As long as I can hold on until the array breaks and see the Palace Lord Chan and the rest, I will be able to live. Dongbo Shuiying's soul trembled. His soul was looking outside at the layers of arrays being attacked. He was waiting. He believed that with the foundation of the Xia people, as long as he could make it out alive, he would definitely be able to survive. Elder Ao Lan's expression was extremely ugly. How is it, Grand Elder? Is Dongbo Shuiying dead? Monarch Qing Yan and the Spider Queen were extremely anxious. Their mission this time was to kill Dongbo Shuiying. Don't worry, there won't be any problems. The sorcerer god's poison in his body has already reached a peak. It is impossible to neutralize it. Grand Elder Ao Lan said confidently. But how could he resist such a concentrated sorcerer god's poison and still maintain his consciousness? The sorcerer god told me before that 99 out of 100 demigods would collapse and lose consciousness. How could he still maintain his consciousness? He was very clear about how powerful the sorcerer god was. Why was the sorcerer god called the sorcerer god? It was because he was most famous for his voodoo poisons that he was known as the sorcerer god. Even the voodoo poison on his sword was extremely terrifying. Boom boom. 8 of the arrays outside had already been broken. Open for me. Si Kongyang was dazzling and incomparably crazy. Break. The desolate old man stood by the side, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Rumble. The 9th array had been broken. Time passed second by second. The 10th array had been broken. He's not dead yet? Monarch Qing Yan asked anxiously. He has an undying body. His life force is extremely strong. Elder Ao Lan was somewhat embarrassed. I didn't expect a human, a saint transcendent, to be able to cultivate an undying body. Even if he had awakened his primordial bloodline, he would need more than 1,000,000 kilograms of origin stones. Where did he get so many origin stones? But don't worry, even if he has an undying body, he will still die from the sorcerer god's poison. It's just a matter of time. With his undying body, he can only hold on for a while longer. He could only watch helplessly. Only the sorcerer god's sword could enter the Mirage realm. They could not. The 11th array is about to be broken. The Spider Queen said in a low voice. Get ready. Once the 12th array is broken, we will leave immediately. Dingzhou's battleship surged mightily. The demigods of the Xia people worked together to attack with all their might. They had used up a total of 5 precious deity-grade scrolls. These scrolls also needed to be used at the right time and at the right moment. Otherwise, the efficiency of a frontal attack would be too low. I will lure the black clouds and lightning to descend. Then we will break it in one fell swoop. The desolate old man, the Maishan master, was doing his best. He had indeed played a big role in breaking the array. Of course, more importantly, the Xia people had spared no expense. As a result, they were able to break the array in less than the time it took to brew a cup of tea. The Maishan master stretched out his hands and flicked his 10 fingers. Without the interference of the other 11 arrays, the space around the final dark cloud of lightning began to distort. The balance of the dark cloud was quickly broken. Kaboom! Countless bolts of lightning suddenly exploded, blasting in all directions. Some of the lightning was also guided into the array by Elder Ao Lan's magic clone. Attack! Ding Zhou's battleship charged at the forefront. The demigods of the Xia people followed closely behind. Rumble amidst the earth-shattering rumble. The final array was completely destroyed. Let's go. Even though there was still a world isolated by the seal, it was mainly isolated by the seal. It could obstruct Shui Ying, but it was impossible for it to obstruct the entire Xia clan's frenzied assault. Furthermore, Elder Aolan and the rest had to bring the treasure that sealed the world with them. It was too valuable, comparable to the sorcerer god's saber. A dark green flying ship appeared out of thin air. With a thought, Elder Aolan retrieved the sorcerer god's saber from the mirage. He kept it and followed them into the dark green flying ship. Swish! The dark green flying ship speed soared, reaching a terrifying speed of 300 kilometers per second. As it escaped, the sealed world around it disappeared. Ding Zhou's battleship charged into the 200-kilometer radius. Palace Lord Chun Si Kongyang Chi Chiu Bai Chao Qing, City Lord Bu, Grand Elder Palace Head, Gong Yu and many other demigods of the Xia people arrived. Even the demigods of the Temple of the Earth God and the Bloodshed Tavern had arrived. The Meishan Master was among the large group of Xia people demigods. Where is he? Where is the Snow Eagle? They all looked at him. Hua! A figure appeared out of thin air. It was a figure clad in thick green armor. The green armor instantly turned into mist and gathered at the side, forming a green-armored guard. As for Dongbu Shuiying, his golden armor clung to his entire body. Even his face and eyes were golden. At this moment, Dongbu Shuiying was like a golden statue. He's here. The corners of Dongbu Shuiying's mouth curled up slightly as he forced a smile. He looked into the distance at the group of figures in mid-air. More accurately, he saw a beautiful lady in a deep blue robe. He was looking at the figure that he wanted to see the most. Follow. Dongbu Shuiying, who had been relying on his insane determination to hold on until now, relaxed. Instantly an earth-shattering pain engulfed him, causing him to lose consciousness. Like a metal statue, Dongbu Shuiying fell from the sky. Snow Eagle. Snow Eagle. Palace Lord Chun Si Kongyang Chao Qing, and the rest of the demigods of the Xia people all had a drastic change in their expressions as they rushed forward. Chapter 267. The green-armored guard immediately hugged Dongbu Shuiying. Xiao, his figure flashed and he landed on the ground. With a wave of his hand, the ground was completely flattened. Only then did he put down the golden statue like Dongbu Shuiying. In the air, Si Kongyang, Palace Lord Chun, and Mountain Lord he also followed suit and landed. Hurry and save him. He won't be able to hold on for much longer. The green-armored guard anxiously said, We can't delay any longer. Yuan, come over and take a look. Palace Lord Chun looked at Mountain Lord he beside him, and then Mountain Lord he lightly nodded. With a solemn expression, he looked at the golden statue like Dongbu Shuiying lying in front of him. His brows furrowed. His entire body was covered in armor, so how could he check? Even his magic power couldn't penetrate it. Open his mouth. Mountain Lord he looked at the green-armored guard. The green-armored guard immediately stretched out his hand and opened Dongbu Shuiying's mouth. It was very easy to open it. During battle, the flowing gold armor protected every part of his body, including his ears and lips. The flowing gold armor was completely sealed. However, after Elder Aolan and the others escaped, Dongbu Shuiying also wanted to speak after leaving the mirage. Naturally, the flowing gold armor on his lips had disappeared. Unexpectedly, when he saw Jing Qiu's figure from afar, his mental state relaxed a little, and he completely fainted. He didn't even have the time to say anything to Palace Lord Chun and the others. Snow Eagle. He has been poisoned by the sorcerer god's saber. Mountain Lord you must be careful when checking. The green-armored guard hurriedly said. Don't worry. Retreat to the side. Mountain Lord he ordered. When he heard about the sorcerer god's saber's poison, his heart tightened. Although he didn't know what the sorcerer god's saber was from its name, he could vaguely guess that it was related to the sorcerer god. Previously, when Mountain Lord he ordered the green-armored guard to open Dongbu Shuiying's mouth, it was only to confirm that Dongbu Shuiying's mouth wasn't sealed by the armor. If it wasn't sealed, things would be simple. Although his lips were closed, There was still a very small gap. His psyche manipulated a strand of arcane energy to flow through the gap between his lips and into Dongbua Shuiying's body. It then started to seep into Dongbua Shuiying's muscles and bones, wanting to take a closer look. But just as it seeped in, it was evil and ruthless. It seeped into the deepest parts of one's muscles, bones, and even into the particle level. Fortunately, magic power and Do Qi were the same. They were not affected by the poison, so Mountain Lord he could still examine it. But at the same time, magic power and Do Qi were also unable to expel or resist the poison. What poison is this? Mountain Lord he was completely shocked. It has completely permeated into every part of the snow eagle's body. Even his Dantian Qi Si has been completely permeated. It is as though it has become a symbiotic body of the snow eagle. At the particle level, it has completely fused with the snow eagle. There is no way to expel it. Every particle in his body was permeated with the mysterious poison. Unless it is strong enough to dissect and control the particles, shatter them, expel the poison, and allow the intact particles to fuse back together? Mountain Lord he shook his head. His expression was extremely ugly. Particles were known to be the smallest structure. To carry out such a deep division of a particle was beyond his imagination. This was definitely the domain of gods. A large group of demigods from the Xia people were gathered here. They were all looking at Mountain Lord He, who was currently investigating. When they saw Mountain Lord He furrowing his brows and his ugly expression, their hearts sank. I have no other way. Mountain Lord He's voice was somewhat hoarse. He really wanted to save Dongbua Shuiying. No other way? The many demigods from the Xia people were stunned. This Palace Lord Chun was anxious. His gaze swept across the large group of demigods from the Xia people. Very quickly, his gaze landed on the lonely old man in the corner. This lonely old man was a guest from another world. His strength was indeed above any of the demigods from the Xia people. He was also very knowledgeable. Previously, he had played a huge role in breaking the array. Meishan Master, please come and give it a try, Palace Lord Chen said. All right. The lonely old man did not mention any conditions. His strand of transcendent qi immediately seeped into Dongbua Shuiying's mouth. After examining it, he shook his head slightly. The reason why he did not mention any conditions was because he guessed that he would not be able to do anything. The truth was pretty much the same as what he had predicted. This sorcerer god's saber should have been the sorcerer god's saber for a long time. The lonely old man shook his head. This is already beyond the capabilities of us transcendents. If you want to save this Dongbua Shuiying, you better beg the ancestors of the Xia people. That's right. This terrifying poison from the sorcerer god's saber is constantly destroying Dongbua Shuiying's body. Fortunately, he has already cultivated the undying body. His body's life force is constantly protecting his body. However, this is also consuming his life force. Once his life force is depleted, he will die. Thus you have to hurry. If my guess is correct, Dongbua Shuiying's undying body can only last for 2 hours at most. What? 2 hours? Hurry, hurry, hurry. The demigods from the Xia people were shocked. Return to the infernal palace. Palace Lord Chan immediately ordered. The green armored guard immediately carried Dongbua Shuiying. Hua hua hua. One by one they quickly entered the gigantic Dingzhou battleship. Brother Eternal Wind, bring me along. Beside the demigods from the Xia people, there were already other transcendents. They were Jingqiu, Puyangbo and the rest. Previously, Jingqiu did not dare to make a sound and could only silently watch from the back. However, when she heard the conversation between Mountain Lord He and the Meishan Master, her eyes instantly turned red. Looking at the metallic statue-like Dongbua Shuiying lying on the ground, she felt her heart ache. That dazzling transcendent who seemed to be able to solve any problem. But now his life was in danger. Let's go. Master Gongyu, who was beside her, sighed and brought Jingqiu up to the sky. You guys don't need to go. It's useless even if you go. If there's any news I will inform you. Qiqiu Bai looked towards Puyangbo, Yufeng, Yuanqing and the rest. Hoo very quickly. Dingzhou's battleship tore through space and disappeared from the sky outside Razor Wind City. Dongbua, you saved my life before, but now you... Pu Yangbo looked towards the direction Ding Zhou's battleship had left. Snow Eagle will definitely be fine. If the ancestors of the Xia people were to take action, they would definitely be able to save Snow Eagle's life, Yu Feng said. Many of the ancestors of the Xia people have great methods. He will definitely be fine. They were all looking forward to it. At this moment, the lonely old man lightly shook his head and sighed to himself, save? There is a group of ancestors of the Xia people who have become deities. However, according to what I know, although some of them are already very strong. However, those who have truly reached the level of world deities, who can guide the souls of their believers to reincarnate and reconstruct their fleshly bodies, there is not a single one. After all, it is only the ancestors of the deities of a mortal world. How could it be so easy to give birth to a truly great existence? The hope of saving this Dongbo Shui-ing is very slim. In the deity world, there were many deities. In the billions of mortal worlds in the vast deity world, how many had become deities? How difficult was it to be qualified to be called a great existence? The sorcerer god worshipped by the beast clan and the great demon god worshipped by the demonic faction were all great existences that had reached this level. Of course, the great demon god was much stronger than the sorcerer god. The great demon god had already reached the level of the sorcerer god 30 million years ago. In the study room of Snowrock Castle, in one of the drawers of the study room was a communication wristband. Not long ago, the red-robed Dongbo Shui-ing was sitting in front of this study room. He had left some last words for Jing Qiu and his family in the wristband. He was prepared to die. Ordinary people would not be able to refine the messages in the wristband. Only the Palace Lord Chun could receive them. This was because the Palace Lord Chun controlled the core of the transcendent communication wristband of the Xia people. It was because of the core that the wristbands could communicate with each other. Of course, if he could survive, these last words naturally did not need to be made public. When Shui Ying's true body was pierced by the sorcerer god's saber, the sorcerer god's poison entered his body and caused an incomparably terrifying pain, so much so that even his soul was trembling. This caused Shui Ying's Qi avatar to disintegrate like a grain of sand, disappearing without a trace from the study room. The Qi avatar only had a strand of soul. This strand of soul could not sustain the existence of a true life. It needed to borrow the powerful soul of the original body in order to maintain the Qi avatar. If the original body's soul was in so much pain that it could not care about the Qi avatar, or if it lost consciousness, the Qi avatar would dissipate. This strand of soul could not exist on its own and would dissipate as well. Within the study room, it was still peaceful. Only the communication wristband lay in the drawer. The first night watch. The second night watch was fast approaching. Chapter 268. Ding Zhou's warship entered the infernal realm through the void, and arrived at the infernal palace in no time. Xiao Palace Lord Chun kept Ding Zhou's warship, and the demigods of the Xia people landed. Those from the Bloodshed Tavern and the Temple of the Earth God are not allowed to enter. Please forgive us, Palace Lord Chun said before leading the Xia people into an inconspicuous hall in the infernal palace. The green armored guard carried Dongbo Shui-ing and followed them in. Jing Qiu followed them in as well. There were 6 who stood outside and did not follow them in. They were not angry. Since they had joined the Bloodshed Tavern and the Temple of the Earth God, they had long since become aware of this. The moment they joined these two superpowers, the majority of them would place the Bloodshed Tavern and the Temple of the Earth God as their first priority, and the Xia clan as their second. If they had enough contributions, even if they died, the powerful beings of the heavenly world would guide their souls and reconstruct their bodies so that they could continue living. This was the hope of resurrection after death. Of course, those who had the qualifications to be guided to reconstruct their bodies were few and far between. Most of them only had their souls guided into the heavenly world, allowing them to continue living. They would not pay a huge price to reconstruct their bodies so that they could continue to cultivate. Although it was impossible to cultivate without reconstructing their bodies, the demigods who chose to rely on them were still willing. At least they would still be alive, right? What about the Xia people? The Xia people were ultimately a race of mortals. Although there were a few ancestors of the Xia people who became gods, none of them were able to guide their souls to reconstruct their bodies and reincarnate. Therefore, once the transcendence of the Xia people died, they were truly dead. Even their souls could not survive. The transcendence of the Xia people believed that, if they did not reconstruct their bodies, although they could still live, they would only be able to contribute their faith until their souls died of old age. Such a way of living was not what the transcendence of the Xia people wanted. What they wanted was to live a spectacular life. It was a joyous feeling. They were not willing to be bound by anything. He would rather live a happy life, and then have his soul dissipate than be bound by all sorts of restrictions. Even after his soul was guided, he would continue to be controlled and contribute faith. Most of those who could become transcendents were very prideful and unyielding. Therefore, even though they knew of the benefits of the Bloodshed Tavern and the Terrine Shrine as they grew stronger, they were still a small portion of the Xia people. The Xia people did not mind. After all, everyone had their own ambitions. As long as they were not selfish enough to betray their entire race like the transcendence of the demonic faction, the Xia people would tolerate it. Rumble, the palace door closed. Within this great hall there were many statues. These statues were all of the Xia people. Each of them had an extraordinary bearing. Some were unrestrained, some were cold and arrogant, some were calm and indifferent, and some emitted a monstrous domineering aura. These were the ancestors of the Xia people who had become gods. However, some of these statues were placed at the edge. Those that were placed at the edge were those that had lost contact with the Xia people after they became gods. This was also why the younger generations of the Xia people were cold-hearted. However, since they had become gods, they still made statues for them. As for the other statues placed at the center, they were all statues of the Xia people. The younger generations of the Xia people were also very grateful. However, although there were more than 200 statues placed in the center, most of them no longer had any aura, because they were dead. Becoming a god in the vast deity world was only the beginning. In the deity world, they also had to fight and struggle. They missed their homeland, but in the process of fighting, some of them had fallen forever. Today there were still 52 statues that were still emitting aura. Every statue had a spatial mark that they had left behind. Of the deities of the Xia people who missed their homeland, there were currently 52 of them alive. Among them there were 3 with the strongest aura. Ancestor Yunhai, the younger generation of the Xia people, has a request. Palace Lord Chun bowed respectfully. At the same time, the other demigods present, including Jing Qiu, also bowed respectfully. Every single one of them was sincere. Emperor Yunhai. He was one of the 3 strongest deities among the 52 living deities of the Xia people. What's the matter? The white-robed, long-haired man's mouth suddenly moved as he spoke. We, the Xia people, have a young transcendent, named Dongbue Xueying. Palace Lord Chan pointed at Dongbue Xueying, who was lying on the ground like a metal statue. He is currently poisoned by the sorcerer god's saber. We are helpless. Please, Ancestor Yunhai, save his life. Sorcerer god's saber? Sorcerer god? Emperor Yunhai's statue turned to look at Dongbue Xueying. Right now, he was only able to hear and see with the help of the spatial mark. This method of detection was very crude. Is the sorcerer god's saber the one used by the sorcerer god? Emperor Yunhai asked. Yes. The green-armored protector replied. Then I definitely have no way of saving him. Emperor Yunhai said. The sorcerer god that the Beast clan worships is an extremely talented being. He is extremely proficient in the aspect of hexing poisons. I am not proficient in this aspect, so I definitely have no way of saving him. Among the Xia people, the one with the highest attainment in the Tao of medicine is undoubtedly the Purple Thunder Emperor. Now that the Purple Thunder Emperor has been recruited by the Bloodshed God Palace, he is wholeheartedly focused on the Tao of medicine. His attainment in the Tao of medicine is also extremely high. If we want to save this little fellow Dongbue Xueying, I'm afraid only the Purple Thunder Emperor has any hope of saving him. If even he cannot save him, then there is no hope. Understood, Palace Head Chen hastily replied. Emperor Yunhai nodded lightly. His statue returned to normal. Palace Lord Chan immediately activated the spatial mark on the statue of the Purple Thunder Emperor. The Purple Thunder Emperor, who was bitterly pondering over medicinal herbs in the distant deity world, sensed it. He immediately passed through the layers of world barriers to enter the statue. Ancestor Purple Thunder, this junior of the Xia people has a request. Palace Lord Chun respectfully bowed. The others followed suit. What's the matter? The Purple Thunder Emperor was a very amiable-looking old man. The two tufts of his beard made him look quite cute. When he was a mortal, he was a doctor wholeheartedly focused on saving lives. Later on, he awakened the tyrannical primordial lightning bloodline. But he still comprehended the true meaning of Purple Thunder, using lightning to save lives. Unknowingly, he had become a deity. Even after entering the deity world, he was initially unremarkable. Among the ancestors of the Xia people, the dazzling ones like the Scarlet Cloud Emperor had bravely advanced. Some of them had stagnated and some had even died. But the Purple Thunder Emperor had surpassed them all. Today, he had become one of the 3 strongest ancestor deities of the Xia people. He had even been recruited by the Bloodshed God Palace. His future was extraordinary. Our Xia people have a young transcendent called Dongbu Shuiying. He has been poisoned by the sorcerer god's saber. Palace Lord Chen said. You want me to save him? The Purple Thunder Emperor looked at the lying Dongbu Shuiying. Poison from the sorcerer god's saber. Is this saber the sorcerer god's saber? It was used by a demigod of the Beast clan? Yes, Palace Lord Chen said. The one who used the sorcerer god's saber is the current Beast clan's Grand Elder. Palace Lord Chen said. Since it can be used by a demigod, it should be the sorcerer god's divine saber when he was a deity, the Purple Thunder Emperor said. The sorcerer god is a grand world deity existence. After becoming a world deity, the weapon he used could not be used by a demigod. If he were to use his current weapon to stab this child, he would have died long ago. Even so, the saber he used in the past is the one he used when he reached the peak of the deity realm. He has nurtured it for a long period of time, so it must be abnormally powerful. I need to send my projection down to personally examine it. I'll have to trouble Ancestor Purple Thunder, Palace Lord Chun said emotionally. Hua, the space within the Great Hall began to distort, and the distorted space began to resonate with the Purple Thunder Emperor's location in the incomparably distant deity world. The Purple Thunder Emperor's vast, surging god power forcibly passed through the countless obstructions of space and the physical world to descend upon the Great Hall. The figure of an old man began to condense. Heart world projection. Actually, sending down a heart world projection was a huge price to pay, but the Purple Thunder Emperor did not hesitate to do so. To the Purple Thunder Emperor, the world of the Xia people was his home, his roots. Ancestor Purple Thunder. The demigods of the Xia people present were all somewhat excited. They had never seen the descending heart world projection of the Xia people's ancestors before, and it was very normal for demigods to not have seen the projection of the ancestors of the Xia people. If there was nothing important, the descendants of the Xia people would not disturb their ancestors, much less make them pay such a huge price to send down a heart world projection. Everyone move aside. Let me take a look at this child. The Purple Thunder Emperor directly walked to Dongbu Shuiying's side. Although his aura was being suppressed by the will of the world, his laws of profound mysteries and other aspects were not affected at all. He lightly extended his hand. A streak of violet lightning tunneled through the gap between Shuiying's lips. Chapter 269. Everyone in the Great Hall held their breaths as they watched the scene unfold. They were all hoping that their ancestor, the Purple Thunder Emperor, would be able to rescue Dongbu Shuiying. The destruction of the demonic faction headquarters, and the killing of the great demon god's doppelganger, was an important victory that would be recorded in the history of the Xia people. However, Dongbu Shuiying, who was the key to their victory, had fallen here. They were unable to accept this. Time passed second by second. Everyone was waiting anxiously. The sorcerer god lives up to his name of being able to take that step and become a universe god. The Purple Thunder Emperor sighed. He actually managed to cultivate the 6 ghost grudge voodoo poison when he was at the deity level. This sorcerer god's saber has been nurtured by him throughout his long years at the deity level, and it already carries the 6 ghost grudge voodoo poison with it. Thankfully, it's only a small amount of the voodoo poison. Cultivating voodoo. Countless dazzling existences in the god realm had long since created some terrifying voodoo poisons. Therefore, as long as one's realm reached a certain level, one could find some precious ingredients to refine a terrifying voodoo poison. The Six Ghosts Grudge voodoo poison was very famous. It was the greatest achievement of the sorcerer god after he became a god. If he used it himself when he was still a god, he could use the voodoo poison that he nurtured in his body through the sorcerer god's sword, and directly into the enemy's body. Even a divine spirit expert would be in unbearable pain and be heavily injured. Even if it didn't stab the enemy, the voodoo poison could still be released into the surrounding space and seep into the enemy's body. As for the sorcerer god's sword, it was just a weapon, a medium. The long years of nurturing and using the sorcerer god's sword had caused the Six Ghosts' resentment to appear on its blade. However, its toxicity had already weakened significantly. Still, it was enough to deal with the demigod. Ancestor Purple Thunder. This voodoo poison is called Six Ghosts Grudge? Palace Lord Chun couldn't help but ask. Yes, Six Ghosts Grudge. The Purple Thunder Emperor nodded. It was only after I entered the Bloodshed God Palace that I had the chance to personally examine the countless hexing poisons. That was why he could recognize her. If I hadn't joined the Bloodshed God Palace, I wouldn't have been able to recognize you. There were countless voodoo poisons, and in order to detoxify them, one had to first identify the poison. If he couldn't recognize it, how could he solve it? Countless voodoo poisons were placed in front of them for research. This was something that countless experts who studied the Tao of alchemy yearned for. However, ordinary powers in the god realm could not afford to provide for them. Can it be solved? Asked Palace Lord Chun. The Purple Thunder Emperor swept his gaze across the crowd and said, "The people here should be almost all the demigods of this generation of the Xia people. This kid named Dongbui Shui-Ying has been inflicted with a voodoo poison that is very troublesome. It is not impossible to save him, but I have to make things clear first." Everyone listened carefully. Qi Qiubai, Chao Qing, Si Kongyang, and Yu Jingqiu, who were close to the Snow Eagle in Eastern Europe, were even more nervous. Even if I concoct the medicinal solution for him to consume, firstly, Dongbui Shui-Ying will need to consume it for a long period of time. However, the Six Ghosts resentment poison will gradually adapt to it, and the more medicinal solution he consumes, the less effective it will be. After 200 years, the medicinal liquid would no longer have any effect, and Dongbui Shui-Ying would still die. If you take the medicine too quickly, your lifespan will probably be even shorter. Secondly, with the voodoo poison in his body, he will suffer from the pain of the Six Ghosts resentment poison for a long period of time. You won't know if you haven't experienced it before. I can tell you that this voodoo poison is extremely painful, and is known for its agony. The reason why Dongbui Shui-Ying fainted is because he is in too much pain, and that is why he lost consciousness. In the future, when he drinks the medicine, the pain will lessen, but as the medicinal solution is consumed, the pain will gradually return. Under the intense pain, he will not be able to resist drinking more medicine. The more he drinks, the faster he will die. Although in theory he can live for 200 years, in reality, he will not even live for 100 years. Also, because the voodoo poison has seeped into the body's most basic particles, the body cannot cultivate, and the primordial bloodline cannot be awakened. At the same time, the voodoo poison has seeped into his dantian, and he can no longer cultivate battle qi. The battle qi in his body will decrease with each use, until there is no battle qi left in his body. Finally, because of the terrifying pain of the Six Ghosts resentment poison, even if drinking medicine can alleviate it, the pain will still be terrifying. Under this kind of pain, it will be difficult to calm down and comprehend the mysteries of heaven and earth. So, if we save him, in theory he will live for 200 years at most, or even less than 100 years. Furthermore, he will suffer the pain of the voodoo poison day and night. He will not be able to cultivate his body or battle qi. Under this kind of pain, it will be difficult for him to comprehend the mysteries of heaven and earth. The Purple Thunder Emperor said, "Furthermore, to save him, we will need a large amount of medicinal liquid, enough for him to consume for 200 years. Sending this medicinal liquid down is equivalent to sending a deity weapon. Now that I have entered the Bloodshed God Palace, I can afford it. But is it worth it to pay such a huge price to save a cripple like him?" The Purple Thunder Emperor looked at the group of Xia people transcendents. Whether to save him or not, it is up to you all to decide. Silence reigned. Nobody had expected such an outcome. The six ghosts' resentment poison was so painful that it could cause a transcendent to lose consciousness. This was simply unimaginable. Although Dongbo Shuang might be able to alleviate the pain by drinking the medicine, it was still extremely painful, and he would have to endure it day and night. Under this kind of torment, how could he calm down and comprehend the mysteries of heaven and earth? His body and battle chi could not be cultivated, and his lifespan would be extremely short. At most, he would live for 200 years, and this was the theoretical limit. But sending medicinal liquid was equivalent to sending a deity weapon? Throughout the long history of the Xia people, those who could send deity weapons down were all extremely formidable ancestors of the Xia people. But how many deity weapons had there been? Is there no way to completely cure Dongbo Shuang? Since we know it's the six ghosts' resentment poison, is there no way to cure it in the entire deity world? The Palace Lord Chun asked. There is. Not to mention the six ghosts' resentment, even if it were a more formidable hexing poison, the deity world would have a way to cure it. But we, the Xia people, cannot afford the price. The Purple Thunder Emperor said. If Dongbo Shuang were in the deity world, I could easily save him. But he is in the mortal world, and experts from the deity world cannot descend with their true bodies. Thus, he can only rely on medicinal liquid and other external items to cure him. A single medicinal liquid can allow a transcendent to expel the six ghosts' resentment poison in an instant. Sending such a medicinal liquid is equivalent to sending down 100 deity weapons. Even if all the deities of the Xia people combined their treasures, it would not be enough. The Palace Lord Chun did not dare to ask any further. Even if it was enough, it was impossible for the ancestors of the Xia people to use up all their treasures. Even if they were willing, the ancestors of the Xia people might not be willing. After all, the ancestors of the Xia people had their own days in the deity world. They had their own battles and struggles. Make your decision. Stop delaying. This kid won't be able to hold on for long. The Purple Thunder Emperor looked at all the demigods present. Jingqiu was both anxious and nervous. Decision? Should she save him? Of course she wanted to save him. After all, if she did not save him, Dongbo Shuang would die. But the demigods of the Xia people had to consider the price too. The Purple Thunder Emperor was willing, but the Dongbo Shuang that he saved would only be a cripple. The demigods of the Xia people exchanged glances with each other. Without any arguments, they all made their decision. Save him, the Palace Lord Chun said. Save him. Mountain Lord, he did not hesitate. Snow Eagle has contributed greatly to the Xia people. He is the transcendent with the highest talent in the history of the Xia people. Originally, his future was limitless. However, for the sake of the Xia people, he went through many hardships to break into the demonic faction headquarters and destroy the physical body of the great demon god. He did so much and was besieged by the sorcerer god and the great demon god, ultimately falling to this state. If we don't save him, will the Xia people still be the Xia people? If a transcendent dies in battle for the Xia people, then we, the Xia people, will not let down any transcendent. Save him. The Grand Elder Palace head said. If we need 8 or 10 deity weapons to shake the foundation of the Xia people, then I might hesitate. But one less deity weapon will not shake the foundation of the Xia people. But if we don't save the Snow Eagle, we, the Xia people, will no longer be the Xia people that we are willing to sacrifice for. Chao Qing's voice boomed, his eyes like lightning. Save him. Save him. Save him. Jingqiu's eyes reddened as she listened. All the demigods present spoke up one by one. There will cause the Purple Thunder Emperor to smile. The Xia people were still the Xia people from his memories. Although they had experienced calamities time and time again, and were even beaten to the point of being forced to retreat to the infernal realm, the Xia people had never bowed their heads. Whether it was the abyss demons, the invasion of the otherworlds, the threats from the great demon god and other powerful deities, or even the subtle pressure from the Terrene temple. None of these had ever made the Xia people bow their heads. The Xia people would always rather die standing than live kneeling. This world belonged to the Xia people. No one should even think about meddling. The Terrene temple? I allow you to spread your faith, but you have to follow my rules. The demonic faction? If you don't follow the rules, then you can hide in the darkness forever. The moment you show your head, kill. All other outsiders, kill, kill, kill. The transcendents of the Xia people did not fear death, but at the same time, the Xia people would not let these transcendents down. Chapter 270. Alright, I'll go prepare the ingredients and concoct the concoction. The Purple Thunder Emperor smiled. He was very pleased to see this scene. If he saw that his descendants did not live up to expectations, he would feel that it was not worth it even if he wanted to do something for them. But if his descendants did not live up to expectations, no matter how much effort they put in, these ancestors would still feel happy. Also, you mentioned the matter of the great demon god's avatar? The Purple Thunder Emperor looked towards Palace Lord Chan. Palace Lord Chan immediately replied, reporting to Ancestor Purple Thunder, "It's like this." He hurriedly explained, "I've already mentioned this to Ancestor Yun Hai. Ancestor Yun Hai also said that the Sorcerer God and the Great Demon God have such a plan. Even the faith of the entire mortal world is not worth it. Their target can only be Crimson Rock Mountain." Yes, it must be Crimson Rock Mountain. The Purple Thunder Emperor transmitted, however, even though the Sorcerer God and the Great Demon God are world deities, they have no advantage in terms of strength when it comes to plotting against Crimson Rock Mountain. There are many people stronger than them in the deity world. However, the Great Demon God has prepared a deity avatar. Clearly, he is preparing to send a deity avatar. Deity avatars cannot enter Crimson Rock Mountain, so they should be attacking the Xia people. Why would they attack the Xia people? My guess is that the Sorcerer God and the Great Demon God are planning to exterminate the Xia people and occupy the entire Xia people's world. Once they occupy the entire Xia people's world, Crimson Rock Mountain within the Xia people's world will be in their pocket. The two of them have worked together to make this place impregnable. Even if other deity experts send demigods down, they will not have a chance to enter Crimson Rock Mountain. Others cannot enter. Only the two of them can occupy it. They can send demigods in countless times over the years. After a long time, Crimson Rock Mountain will eventually fall into their hands. However, it is not so easy to occupy the Xia people's world. I feel that they have an even more powerful backup plan. This backup plan should be controlled by the Sorcerer God. This is also the reason why the Sorcerer God and the Great Demon God are confident of occupying the Xia people's world. The Purple Thunder Emperor said with a voice projection. Palace Lord Chen nodded and transmitted his voice. That's what Ancestor Yun Hai said. He said that the Sorcerer God is much weaker than the Great Demon God. If the Great Demon God cooperates with him, the Sorcerer God must have something to rely on. If the Great Demon God was willing to use his avatar, then they probably had something else to rely on. This time I also saw a Spider Empress and I even saw the Sorcerer God's sword. The beast race has hidden themselves so deeply. It's fine if they don't erupt, but once they do, they will definitely be formidable. Why didn't you tell me about this? The Purple Thunder Emperor asked. I can't be sure before the attack. We just destroyed the clone of the Great Demon God. Palace Lord Chun transmitted his voice. I only mentioned this matter to Ancestor Yun Hai. Once it's confirmed, I will naturally report it to the other ancestors. Yes, this matter is very important. I will discuss it with the others and come up with a solution. The Purple Thunder Emperor frowned. After all, the Sorcerer God and the Great Demon God were willing to pay such a heavy price. They probably had something to rely on. It would not be easy for the Xia people to break through. There should still be plenty of time. The Great Demon God's avatar has been destroyed. They should be lacking a main fighting force. Palace Lord Chun transmitted his voice. Yes, they should delay their plans. Such a big matter must be fully prepared before they make a move. However, we have to prepare immediately. The more prepared, the better. The Purple Thunder Emperor and the other deities of the Xia people were definitely not willing to watch as the Xia people were destroyed. He glanced at Dongbua Shuiying, who was lying on the ground. Fortunately, this kid is here. Otherwise, I'm afraid they would only know about it when they make a move. By then it would be too late to prepare. This also caused the Purple Thunder Emperor to have a very good impression of Dongbua Shuiying, this descendant of the Xia people. Look after Dongbua Shuiying. If his undying body can't hold on, use a pill to recover his life force. Try your best to delay. The Purple Thunder Emperor transmitted his voice. I will get the Temporal Temple to send the medicinal liquid as soon as possible. Yes, Palace Lord Chun replied. Pills that could recover one's life force were very expensive. If he could delay it for a few hours, it would cost nearly 1,000,000 kilograms of origin stones. However, in order to save Dongbu Shuiying, he didn't even care about the price of a god equipment. Why would he care about this? Muddle-headed. His consciousness was dim. Suddenly, he felt pain all over his body. The pain seemed to be decreasing rapidly. This. As his consciousness gradually recovered, he recalled that he had been surrounded by Elder Aolan and the others. Although he had hidden in the mirage and had the protection of the green armored protector and the flowing gold armor, he had still been inflicted with a terrifying poison. That poison was truly painful. Afterwards, the Xia people broke through the array. Elder Aolan and the others had escaped, and he himself had lost consciousness after leaving the mirage. So bitter. As Dongbu Shuiying regained his senses, he tasted the bitterness in his mouth. However, it was precisely this bitter medicinal liquid that was suppressing the mysterious poison within his body, reducing the pain by a lot. It had already reached a point where Dongbu Shuiying could completely endure it. My body, what's wrong with my body? Why is everything? As Dongbu Shuiying gradually sensed every part of his body, he immediately discovered that there was a huge problem with his body. That poison was still permeating the most basic particles of his body. This poison was already deeply rooted in his body. Although it was being suppressed by the medicinal liquid, it wasn't reduced at all. Furthermore, his Dantian's qi had also been infiltrated, making it impossible for him to cultivate transcendent Do Qi. The transcendent Do Qi within his Dantian's qi would probably decrease with every use. Where is this? Dongbu Shuiying slowly opened his eyes and saw the muslin curtain of his bed. Snow Eagle. A voice rang out. Dongbu Shuiying turned his head to look. Two people were currently standing beside the bed. They were Palace Lord Chun and Mountain Lord He. Dongbu Shuiying hurriedly sat up. Although his entire body was in pain, it was nothing much. Palace Lord Chun, Mountain Lord He, thank you for saving my life, Dongbu Shuiying said. Both Palace Lord Chun and Mountain Lord He felt their hearts ache. Let's not talk about this. Take this first. This is the 100 bitter restoration that the ancestor of the Xia people, the Purple Thunder Emperor, gave us. Palace Lord Chun passed a black gourd to Dongbu Shuiying. This gourd has a small space within it. There's quite a lot of medicinal liquid inside, enough for you to drink for 200 years. 200 years? Dongbu Shuiying received the black gourd. I'm afraid you aren't too clear about your situation. I have to tell you. Palace Lord Chun furrowed his brows and hesitated. Please speak. Dongbu Shuiying listened attentively. The voodoo poison you've been afflicted with is called the Six Ghosts Resentment Voodoo Poison. Palace Lord Chun said. This medicinal liquid can only temporarily suppress the voodoo poison. Moreover, as the medicinal liquid is consumed, the pain caused by the voodoo poison will recover. In other words, since you've just consumed the antidote, the pain you're feeling now will be the lightest pain you'll ever feel in the future. Dongbu Shuiying nodded his head. He could already feel the medicinal liquid suppressing the poison in his body. As the medicinal liquid gradually decreased, the pain was slowly increasing. The more medicinal liquid you drink, the more the Six Ghosts Resentment Voodoo Poison will adapt to it. When you finish drinking this gourd, it will be the time of your death. Thus, you have to drink as little as possible. Palace Lord Chun said, in theory you can live for 200 years. However, according to the records of the deity world, because of the unbearable pain, drinking the antidote caused some people to not live past 100 years. Dongbu Shuiying fell silent. In theory, 200 years of lifespan. In reality, it might be even shorter. Your body and Dantian qi have been poisoned. Your body and Do Qi will no longer be able to cultivate. Palace Lord Chun said. Speaking of this, he felt terrible. Because if he couldn't cultivate, Dongbu Shuiying would never be able to step into the demigod realm. He would only be able to remain a saint until his death. The pain from the voodoo poison will be felt day and night. It will be very difficult for you to calm your heart, and focus on comprehending the nature of heaven and earth. Palace Lord Chun shook his head. These are all drawbacks. There's nothing we can do about it. Unable to cultivate? Comprehending the nature of heaven and earth was very difficult? Wasn't he a cripple? I'm sorry, Snow Eagle. There's nothing we can do about it. Palace Lord Chun said. Palace Lord Chun, there's no need to say such things. Dongbua Shuiying said. I understand. The medicinal liquid in his hand was sent down from the deity world by the Purple Thunder Emperor. Since they had already gone to this extent, the Xia people had already done everything they could. At the very least, the Purple Thunder Emperor knew about this matter. Mortals can only live for 100 years. I've already lived for tens of years. If I can live for another 100 or 200 years, what's there to be unsatisfied about? Dongbua Shuiying said. All right, I want to go out for a walk. As he spoke, the golden armor on his body started to revolve as he reverted to his normal black robes. After which he walked towards the door. He opened the door. Outside was a courtyard. At this moment, the warm sunlight shone down on his body, as well as the interior of the courtyard. In the courtyard, a lady dressed in a deep blue robe stood there. The sunlight shone through her hair, causing it to glow. How beautiful! Dongbua Shuiying revealed a smile. Jingqiu! Dongbua Shuiying called out. Jingqiu turned around when she heard the voice. She saw the smiling black-robed young man in front of her. Update complete. Chapter 271. Looking at the black-robed youth in front of her, Jingqiu couldn't help but recall the first time they met. At that time, they were both very young and had met each other in the Azure River County's Dragon Mountain Manor. At that time, they only nodded and smiled politely before returning to their respective courtyards. In the blink of an eye, dozens of years had passed. At that time, that reserved youth could only be considered an expert of the Azure River County. Now, he stood at an extremely high position in the entire Xia people. He could be said to be the most heaven-defying transcendent in the history of the Xia people. In one move, he destroyed the demonic faction headquarters and the great demon god's doppelganger. However, the sorcerer god and the great demon god's vengeance had severed his future. Senior brother Snow Eagle. Jingqiu walked over and held Dongbua Shuiying's hand. Let's take a walk. Dongbua Shuiying smiled. Jingqiu nodded lightly. The two walked side by side within the infernal palace. You already know? Dongbua Shuiying asked with a smile. I know. When the Purple Thunder Emperor questioned all the demigods of the Xia people, I was also present. Jingqiu said. Furthermore, the Palace Lord Chun did not keep this matter a secret. Not only the demigods but the other transcendents of the Xia people also know about it. Dongbua Shuiying looked at the majestic palaces and smiled. The Palace Lord Chun did not do anything wrong. The demonic faction has only discovered one high priest. The other second and third priests are still a mystery. I'm afraid that one or two of the demigods of the Xia people are traitors. If that's the case, there's no need to keep this matter a secret. Furthermore, I was poisoned by the sorcerer god's saber. I'm afraid that the sorcerer god knows how powerful this poison is. Jingqiu's heart turned sour. Now that senior brother Snow Eagle had suffered such a great calamity, he would have to endure the pain of the hexing poison day and night, and he would no longer have any hope of cultivating. With such a blow, senior brother Snow Eagle was actually so calm and concerned about the demonic faction and the sorcerer god. By the way, in order to cure me of the sorcerer god's sword poison, the Xia people must have paid a hefty price, right? Dongbua Shuiying suddenly asked. Yes. Jingqiu nodded. This isn't a secret. All the demigods know about it. The price is huge, and it's equivalent to sending down a divine weapon. However, this was all borne by the ancestors of the Purple Thunder Emperor. It's not that I don't want to save you, senior martial brother. It's just that the poison you've been afflicted with is called Six Ghosts' Grudge. It's a very terrifying voodoo poison. If you want to completely cure it, even the treasures of all 52 ancestors of the Xia people wouldn't be enough. I've done enough. Dongbua Shuiying nodded. A divine artifact. How many divine weapons did the Xia people accumulate over the years? In front of us is the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world. Let's go in and take a look. Dongbua Shuiying laughed. As he spoke, he flew alongside Jing Qiu towards the waterfall in front of them. Although he was unable to cultivate his physical strength and battle qi, the amount of battle qi he used would decrease by a portion. However, in reality, Dongbu Shuiying's strength did not decrease at all. That was because his strength mainly depended on his true meanings. It was because of his true meanings that he was able to create those miraculous things. Hua! As his body touched the waterfall, the space around him distorted. Dongbu Shuiying felt his eyes light up. The scenery around him had already changed. In front of him was a vast space. There were mountains everywhere, and white clouds drifted about. I still remember the days when I cultivated with Senior Martial Brother in the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world. Jing Qiu looked at her surroundings. It's just that because of the descent of the demons, there are very few people who come to this Scarlet Cloud Mountain world. Let's take a walk. Dongbu Shuiying brought Jing Qiu along as they descended. Beside a huge lake that was as clear as a mirror, the two of them walked side by side, admiring the scenery of the surrounding mountains. As the two of them walked, they chatted about the things that happened during their cultivation days in the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world. The scenery of the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world is really beautiful, Dongbu Shuiying suddenly exclaimed in admiration. He then sat down cross-legged on a patch of grass beside the lake and laughed. They said that after I was poisoned by the sorcerer god's saber, it became very difficult for me to cultivate. I do want to give it a try. As he spoke, he closed his eyes. Jing Qiu, who was sitting at the side, was also watching nervously. She had heard before that the six ghosts' resentment poison was extremely painful. It could even cause Dongbu Shuiying, who had a strong will, to lose consciousness from the pain. Only by suppressing the poison with the antidote could the pain be alleviated. Extreme piercing. Dongbu Shuiying closed his eyes and used his mental energy to sense the fluctuations of the heaven and earth energy around him. The true meaning of extreme piercing started to be displayed. One could vaguely see the space around him being penetrated. At the same time, Dongbu Shuiying was still working hard to perfect it. He wanted to absorb more profound mysteries to perfect the true meaning of extreme piercing. The pain from the six ghosts' resentment poison that he had suppressed with his willpower was starting to affect him. It was like a person cultivating while someone was whipping him. How could he calm down and cultivate without being disturbed? One had to know that even with the suppression of the antidote, the pain from the six ghosts' resentment poison had already surpassed the pain of ordinary whippings. This pain was at the particle level. It would be fine if he didn't cultivate. However, if he tried to comprehend the heaven and earth energy, he would immediately be disturbed. Calm down, calm down, calm down. Dongbu Shuiying tried his best to not be affected. However, he still had to divert his attention to suppress the pain. Because of this, the speed at which he comprehended the true meaning slowed down. As time passed, the antidote in his body was continuously being consumed, and the pain was continuously increasing. This required more attention to suppress the pain, which would affect his comprehension of the heaven and earth energy even more. Jing Qiu watched from the side. It had already been 4 hours, and Dongbu Shuiying was still sitting cross-legged in cultivation. Senior Purple Thunder Emperor said that it would be hard for one to calm down and comprehend the heaven and earth energy under the influence of the poison. However, he only said that it would be hard. Not impossible. If one's mental state was strong enough, he might be able to ignore the pain and continue cultivating. Jing Qiu was filled with anticipation. Suddenly, beads of perspiration appeared on the forehead of Dongbu Shuiying, as his body trembled slightly. It is indeed difficult. Dongbu Shuiying opened his eyes. How is it? Jing Qiu hurriedly helped Dongbu Shuiying up. The pain is the lightest when I drink the antidote and I can still cultivate. However, the efficiency is lower than before. After an hour, the pain becomes more intense. In fact, it is hard for me to calm down. Dongbu Shuiying shook his head. I have endured for so long. My body can no longer suppress the pain of the poison. At this moment, he stopped cultivating and used all his strength to suppress the pain. Dongbu Shuiying's body stopped trembling. However, his face was slightly pale. Occasionally, the sweat on his body would be dispelled by Dongbu Shuiying's true meaning of stars. There is only an hour in a day. Dongbu Shuiying laughed. That's not bad. Senior Snow Eagle, your mental state is much stronger. Perhaps you can cultivate for a longer period of time. Jing Qiu said. Right. The stronger one's mental state is, the less affected by the pain. Dongbo Shuang added. However, he didn't tell Jing Qiu. Although he could cultivate for an hour in a day, the efficiency of that hour was much lower than before. The pain of the voodoo poison was much greater than expected. The two of them continued walking side by side. After walking for another 2 hours, even though Dongbo Shuang was suppressing the pain with all his heart, his body was still trembling uncontrollably. He could no longer control it. It was simply too painful. Let me sit for a while. Dongbo Shuang sat on a huge rock by the side. He lowered his head and tried his best to endure the pain, trying to get used to it, because in the days to come, he would have to endure the pain day and night. Dongbo Shuang's body was trembling. His face was getting paler and paler. He couldn't even focus on controlling the true meaning of stars to dispel the sweat. Senior Snow Eagle. Jing Qiu looked at him nervously. Was this still the senior Snow Eagle from her memories? Back then, the young senior Snow Eagle was also filled with boundless sharpness and killed Xiang Peng Yun. After falling into the Black Wind Abyss, he survived and became the youngest transcendent in the history of the Xia people. During the transcendent battle of life and death, he was incomparably dazzling. In the following years, he became even more dazzling and could be said to have illuminated an entire era. The demon lair was destroyed by him. Out of the 5 demon generals, 4 died, and 1 struggled at death's door. The demonic faction headquarters was discovered and breached for the first time in the history of the Xia people. The clone of the great demon god was also destroyed. The one who created all of this was the peerless transcendent that even Mountain Lord He, Elder Aolan, and Si Kong Yang, these peak demigods, were in awe. But now, looking at the tormented Dongbo Shuang, Jing Qiu's heart ached. Let's go back. Dongbo Shuang's lips were pale and his face was covered in sweat. He knew that he couldn't hold on any longer. It was better for him to return to his residence. Jing Qiu wanted to hold Dongbo Shuang's hand, but Dongbo Shuang moved aside and smiled. It's all sweat. As he said this, Dongbo Shuang's face became even paler. Jing Qiu's eyes reddened. Senior brother Snow Eagle, let's get married, Jing Qiu suddenly said. Dongbo Shuang was stunned. At this moment, his mind was filled with a roar, and even the pain seemed to have disappeared. Don't you know that I only have 1 to 200 years to live? Maybe I won't even be able to live for 100 years. Dongbo Shuang looked at Jing Qiu. Then from now on you have to accompany me. We'll always be together. We'll travel the world to the ends of the earth, to see everything in my Xia people's world. Jing Qiu looked at him. Haha, then I'll have to rely on you to take care of this sickly person. Dongbo Shuang laughed. Jing Qiu's eyes became slightly misty. She smiled. All right. Then you have to listen to me. I'll listen to you. Dongbo Shuang nodded. The two held hands and flew side by side towards the exit of the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world. Faint voices could be heard. When are we getting married? Dongbo Shuang asked. The day after tomorrow. All right, I'll listen to you. Chapter 272. The two returned to Dongbo Shuang's original residence. Palace Lord Chan and Mountain Lord He were already waiting there. Snow Eagle, are you all right? Palace Lord Chan asked worriedly when he saw Dongbo Shuang's pale and sweaty face. I'm fine. In theory, I should be able to hold on for an entire day. It's still early. Shuang laughed. Previously, after Palace Headchun had given him the bottle gourd of antidote, he had quickly sent a list to Shuang, detailing the theoretical limit of time to drink the antidote. According to this limit, Shuang would be able to live for 200 years. For the first 9 months he could only drink the antidote once a day, 1 portion at a time. Right now it had only been 6 hours since Dongbo Shuang drank the antidote. There was still a long way to go before the end of the day. According to the records of the deity world, many people who were afflicted with the 6 ghosts' resentment would drink the antidote uncontrollably under the torment of pain. Every time they would drink the antidote a little earlier. As a result, they would drink the antidote faster, and it was common for them to not live up to 100 years. Palace Lord Chan did not try to persuade him. He understood that it was better to hold on for as long as possible. Even if the pain was unimaginable, it was still a good thing. Remember, the moment you lose consciousness, let the green armor protector feed you the antidote, Palace Lord Chan said. After you lose consciousness, the moment your undying body's recovery speed cannot match the destructive power of the six ghosts' resentment, I'm afraid you will die within 2 hours. Understood. I will ask Senior War Soldier for help later, Donghua Shuiying said. The green armor protector transformed into a bracelet on his wrist, allowing him to know Donghua Shuiying's situation at all times. As for others, including his loved ones, they could not watch over Donghua Shuiying at all times. Oh right, Palace Lord Chan, Mountain Lord He. Donghua Shuiying smiled. Jing Qiu and I are preparing to get married the day after tomorrow. Palace Lord Chan and Mountain Lord He looked at the two people in front of them in astonishment. Jing Qiu hugged Donghua Shuiying's arm and smiled. Alright, you two are really fast, haha. Palace Lord Chen laughed. Great news, great news. It's actually the day after tomorrow. But it's good that it's fast. When the time comes, we'll have to go congratulate them. I'll have to think of what kind of gift to give them. Mountain Lord He laughed from the side. Right, is it at Snowrock Castle? Yes. Donghua Shuiying nodded. Jing Qiu and I have already thought it through. We will return to Snowrock Castle tomorrow. Everything will be simple, so there is no need to make too much noise. I understand, said Palace Lord Chen immediately. Alright, hurry up and get some rest. If there's anything, just send me a message. Yes. Donghua Shuiying's voice was starting to become unstable. He didn't try to be brave and entered the house first. Seeing the two enter the house, Palace Lord Chan and Mountain Lord He nodded their heads. That's good too. Mountain Lord He said. At least Jing Qiu will accompany Snow Eagle in the future. Yes. Palace Lord Chan nodded. Seeing that Snow Eagle would have a wife to accompany him for the next 100 years, the two of them felt much better. Right, Snow Eagle will be returning tomorrow. Hurry up and finish modifying that treasure. Palace Lord Chun said. Although I feel that the Sorcerer God and the Great Demon God won't act against Snow Eagle again, it's better to be prepared. Don't worry. I'll finish modifying it tonight. Mountain Lord He nodded. At this moment, all over the Xia people's world, the Xia people's transcendents who were scattered all over the place received the news that Donghua Shuiying had been poisoned by the Sorcerer God's saber. At the same time, they also knew about the destruction of the demonic faction headquarters and the destruction of the Great Demon God's clone. They also knew that Donghua Shuiying was besieged by Elder Aolan, Monarch Qing Yan, the Spider Queen, and the deity warriors. The destruction of the Great Demon God's clone meant that the Sorcerer God and the Great Demon God were plotting something behind the scenes. Thus, there was no need to hide it from them. At this moment, the Xia people's transcendents finally understood what Donghua Shuiying had done, and what had happened to him. 4 of the 5 demon generals are dead, and 1 is struggling at death's door. So it's because of Donghua Shuiying. In the history of our Xia people, we have never discovered the demonic faction headquarters. This time it was discovered and even destroyed the Great Demon God's clone. What a pity. That's right, what a pity. Brother Donghua has cultivated for less than 100 years and is already so amazing. If he were to continue cultivating, I don't even dare to imagine what he would become. Number 1 under the heavens? Becoming a god? Or even one of the most powerful ancestors of the Xia people? No matter how much I think about it, it's all for naught. Brother Donghua has been poisoned by the Sorcerer God's saber. In the days to come, he will have to endure the pain of the Sorcerer God's saber's poison day and night. He won't be able to cultivate his doqi or his body, and it's said that even comprehending the heavens and earth will be difficult. Sight. Doesn't this make him a cripple? Who are you calling a cripple? No matter what, even if his strength did not increase, he was still the one who killed the demonic faction's high priest, Shi Yun. Elder Aolan, Monarch Qing Yan, Spider Queen, and the others attacked him together with the Sorcerer God's saber, but they were still unable to take his life. Even an ordinary demigod might not be his opponent. In terms of profundity, he is probably comparable to the top 10 demigods. Do you think a Sky Realm transcendent like you has the qualifications to call him a cripple? I only feel that it's a pity. How would I dare to look down on him? The transcendents of the Xia people all over the world were discussing amongst themselves. Some were regretful, some were angry, and some were sad. However, there were also some who had dark thoughts. Isn't this Dongbu Shuang very close to Mage Jingqiu? Now that he is a cripple, he won't be able to live for long. I'm afraid that Mage Jingqiu will have to part ways with him. When he dies, I might still be able to pursue Mage Jingqiu. As the most beautiful Mage Jingqiu amongst the transcendents, many transcendents naturally wanted to pursue her. It was just that in the past, Dongbu Shuang and Jingqiu were very close, causing other transcendents to not be able to see any hope. Now, however, these transcendents could not help but see hope. However, not long after, a piece of news spread. Dongbu Shuang and Mage Jingqiu will be getting married the day after tomorrow, at Snowrock Castle. This piece of news immediately caused the delusional transcendents to shatter their hopes. After all, the moment they married, even if Dongbu Shuang died, a transcendent's temperament would not allow her to marry a second time. There had never been a case of a transcendent marrying a second time in history. In fact, as transcendents, many transcendent women did not even marry for their entire lives. In the major transcendent world, the oceanic forest world, the golden robed illusion and the gigantic skull illusion met once again. Your news is really fast. It seems that there are still members of your demonic faction within the Xia people, the golden robed illusion said. Among the Xia people, my news network is much better than yours. The great demon god said, I've infiltrated the Xia people for a very, very long time. Oh right, do you think that this piece of news might be fake? There's no need to doubt it. The golden robed illusion said, I've been using this sword for a very long time, and it contains the 6 ghosts resentment hex poison. Who would have thought that an ancestor of the Xia people would actually be recruited into the Bloodshed God Palace? Furthermore, he is proficient in the Tao of medicine and can easily identify hex poisons. Identification was the most important step in detoxification. The sorcerer god originally thought that the ancestors of the Xia people would not be able to identify it. After all, there were too many hex poisons in the deity world, and the 6 ghosts resentment was just one of them. But it's nothing to worry about. They can't descend with their true bodies, so they can only rely on external medicines. The 100 bitter restoration is the lowest grade of antidote, but the price of sending it down is comparable to sending a deity weapon. To the group of weak ancestor deities of the Xia clan, sending this medicine over was already a huge price they had to pay. It's impossible for them to save Dongbu Shuang, the sorcerer god said. This Dongbu Shuang is also nothing to worry about. He'll probably live for another 100 or 200 years at most. Furthermore, the 6 ghosts resentment hex poison torments him day and night, preventing him from cultivating. There's no need to worry about him anymore. Are we not going to continue? The great demon god asked. Firstly, the Xia people might be prepared for this, so the chances of success will be much lower if we attack again. This Dongbu Shuang can easily hide in the mirage or the shadow world, so killing him will be very difficult. Secondly, we've already paid a huge price this time. If we attack again, I'm afraid we'll have to pay an even higher price. It's not worth paying such a huge price just to deal with an insignificant transcendent with a high chance of failure, the sorcerer god said. Just the 12 spirit formations that he had set up in a single breath were already extremely precious. That was because every single array was laid down quickly, and they were all made up of movable array plates. To be able to lay down arrays as powerful as the Black Wind Deity Palace within a breath's time, the price was extremely high. The reason the Black Wind Deity Palace had not been broken through for so many years was because all the transcendents had relied on their own strength to break through. It wasn't that the Xia people couldn't break through even with the entire clan's strength. The Dragon Mountain Emperor and other deities had entered previously precisely because the true treasures of the Black Wind ancestor had not been left in the Black Wind Deity Palace. The Xia people had not used force, but had instead followed the rules set by the Black Wind ancestor and relied on their own strength to break through. This time, however, they had used the entire clan's strength and the Maishan Master's help. Furthermore, they had laid down the arrays in an instant. How high was the price? Furthermore, the torn scroll had been added to the sorcerer god's saber. Without it, the sorcerer god's saber would not be able to suppress the space within the mirage. How terrifying was the price of such a scroll? The price was already so high the first time. If they attacked again, the price would be even higher. Furthermore, the Xia people were prepared, so they might still fail. Furthermore, it was not worth it for the current Dongbo Shuiying. Right, the ancestor of the Xia people, the Purple Thunder Emperor, has been absorbed into the Bloodshed God Palace. Aren't you afraid of trouble? The great demon god suddenly said. The Bloodshed God Palace. Just thinking about it makes me shudder. That's a terrifying power. The Purple Thunder Emperor might be able to make his way up in the Bloodshed God Palace in the future. Humph, as an overlord, I'm not afraid of those who are thousands of times more powerful than him. Furthermore, for the sake of Crimson Rock Mountain, I'll kill whoever blocks my way. The sorcerer god's eyes were filled with an ominous glint. Haha, I think you're more suited to join our dark abyss. The great demon god laughed. Humph. The sorcerer god sneered twice before his figure disappeared. The illusory head of the great demon god also disappeared. Chapter 273. Infernal Palace, in a room that belonged to Dongbo Shuiying. He was curled up on his bed alone. His body was trembling, and he was sweating profusely. He gritted his teeth, and only the sound of his breathing could be heard. He could not help but roll around on the bed from left to right. Silently, his soul was howling in pain. There was no one else in the room. Originally, Jingqiu wanted to accompany him, but Dongbo Shuiying chased her out. He did not want to be seen by others while he was in pain. After all, even if Jingqiu was by his side, she could only watch helplessly. Jingqiu understood the pride in Dongbo Shuiying's heart, so she could only nod her head and leave. The night passed and the sky outside the door brightened. The sun had already risen, but the pain was getting more and more intense, and gradually the pain reached its peak. At this moment, the medicinal liquid in his body was completely gone. The six ghosts' resentment hexing poison had completely erupted with its craziest might, and the corrosion of his body had completely surpassed the regenerative abilities of his undying body. Dongbo Shuiying was relying on his undying body to hold on. Every moment seemed so far away, but Dongbo Shuiying could only grit his teeth and look forward, holding on with all his might. That's right. Perhaps he only had a lifespan of 100 to 200 years, but as long as he lived, there would be a higher chance of survival, right? Dongbo Shuiying was not a person who would lower his head and accept his fate easily. Snow Eagle, one day is up. You can drink the antidote now. The green-armored guard's voice rang out. Dongbo Shuiying harumphed, and his breathing became heavy. At that moment, the black gourd appeared by his side. Shuiying controlled the world energy to wrap around the gourd. The cork of the gourd was pulled open, and with a hua, a medicinal liquid containing the 100 cycles of bitterness flew directly into Shuiying's throat. So comfortable. As the medicinal liquid entered his body, the six ghosts' resentment poison that was rampaging madly was immediately suppressed in all aspects, and the pain quickly decreased. In the process of the pain decreasing, even the bitterness of the 100 bitter restoration antidote could not be felt for a moment. At this moment there was only one feeling: comfortable, truly comfortable. It was as if he had obtained a new life from death. Phew! After a long while, Dongbo Shuiying finally heaved a sigh of relief. All the sweat on his body had disappeared, and his complexion looked much better than before. After all, he was an immortal body. It's only the first day. I didn't expect it to be so hard. Dongbo Shuiying's lips curled into a smile. Although he felt as though he had just walked out from the jaws of death, he did not faint on this day. Although he only managed to maintain his composure for 8 hours, the other 16 hours were spent lying on the bed in excruciating pain. He put away the black gourd floating beside him and stood up. Creak! The door opened. He saw a beautiful woman sitting in the courtyard outside. Jingqiu had been waiting for him for a long time. Senior apprentice brother Snow Eagle. Jingqiu hurriedly ran over. Her bright eyes were filled with concern. How are you? It wasn't easy for you to endure this day, right? It's all right. At least you didn't faint. Dongbo Shuiying smiled. Let's go. We'll bid farewell to Palace Lord Chun. It's about time to return. Just as he finished speaking, 2 figures instantly appeared. They were Palace Lord Chun and Mountain Lord He. Haha, Snow Eagle, we've been waiting for you. Palace Lord Chen smiled. The entire infernal world was under his control. He knew that Dongbua Shuang had just woken up. Palace Lord Chen, Mountain Lord He. Dongbua Shuang smiled. I'm also here to bid farewell. Oh right, when I killed High Priest Shi Yun in the demonic faction headquarters, I obtained quite a few treasures. I never had the chance to give them to you. When I was surrounded, I used a few life-saving treasures and obtained this protective armor. The rest are all here. Dongbua Shuang threw a storage ring over. This is the reward for breaching the demonic faction headquarters and killing the doppelganger of the great demon god. These are also your spoils of war. Palace Lord Chen received the ring and handed it over. Palace Lord Chen, you've already paid a huge price to save me. The demonic faction headquarters has a very deep foundation. There are all sorts of powerful arrays, special treasures, and even a large number of demigod weapons. But you should know that I can't even cultivate transcendent chi. What use do I have for these? In fact, without transcendent chi, the power of this armor is greatly reduced. Dongbua Shuang said. These treasures are still with the Xia people. They are more useful. Moreover, the sorcerer god and the great demon god haven't given up yet. The more treasures we have, the more prepared the Xia people will be. In my hands, it's a waste. As for the treasures we normally use, I still have more than 2 million contribution points. It's more than enough. Choose something that's useful to you or something that's useful to Jing Qiu. Mountain Lord, he said. Dongbua Shuang and Jing Qiu looked at each other. No need. 2 million contribution points are more than enough. Moreover, I believe that Palace Lord Chen has already guessed that I obtained the treasures left behind by Ancestor Black Wind. When the time comes, I can use these treasures to exchange for some resources. It's more than enough for Jing Qiu. Dongbua Shuang said. All right. Palace Lord Chen hesitated for a moment, but he didn't refuse. Indeed. A legend ranker's body could undergo transcendence and become a pseudo-transcendent. A pseudo-transcendent's lifespan was 800 years. However, this was very dangerous and the mortality rate was very high. Just like his mother, Mo Yongyu's family, the Mo Yang clan head, was a pseudo-transcendent. There were quite a lot of pseudo-transcendents. On average, there would be tens of them in a province. Actually, the demonification and apotheosis of some demonic gods was also a form of transcendence, just that it was more dangerous. Although it was dangerous, the price was relatively low. A legend ranker only needed to pay a certain price. For example, if they were willing to give up a portion of their freedom, the temple of the earth god would be willing to help them undergo transcendence. For example, the Mo Yang clan head could afford to pay the price to undergo transcendence. As for the transcendent seven-petaled flower, it was a formula passed down by the ancestors of the Xia people. It was a special medicine that took the form of a flower and could be safely undergone transcendence. Actually, the cost was relatively low. However, the Xia people sold it to transcendence for 100,000 kilograms of origin stones per set. This was a very ruthless price. One must know that even the Mo Yang clan could afford to pay for an ordinary transcendence. However, under normal circumstances, only a demigod would be willing to pay for a transcendent seven-petaled flower. If my family members find it hard to become transcendents, they can also use this transcendent seven-petaled flower. Dongbua Shuang said. However, the prerequisite for using it was to become a legend ranker. I'll give you 5. Palace Lord Chen said. Selling it for 100,000 kilograms of origin stones per set, the cost was actually around 10,000 kilograms of origin stones. This was also the method that the Xia people used to accumulate origin stones. I still have a lot of contribution points. Dongbua Shuang said. Then it's settled. 5 transcendent seven-petaled flowers. Don't decline. Palace Lord Chen said. Haha, that's fine too. Palace Lord Chen, Mountain Lord He, I won't stay any longer. I'll take my leave now. Dongbua Shuang said. And we'll go congratulate you tomorrow. Palace Lord Chen and Mountain Lord He sent the two off with their gazes. Lowering his head to look at the storage ring in his hand, Palace Lord Chen frowned. His eyebrows were like sharp blades. How annoying. Dongbua Shuang's innate talent is unfathomably high. Such a proud son of heaven, yet he hasn't even cultivated for 100 years. He's actually finished just like that, becoming a cripple. It was like a dazzling star, releasing a dazzling radiance that streaked across the sky. However, it soon dimmed and fell. Everyone has their own fate. Mountain Lord, he said. At least the snow eagle's life is glorious enough. Hua! Using the true meaning of extreme piercing, he tore open a spatial tunnel and arrived above Snowrock Castle. Looking down, it was currently the beginning of spring. Looking down, the entire mountain was covered in white snow. Lady Jingqiu, I knew that the two of you would definitely get married. However, I thought that your transcendence would drag it out for a long time, to the point where I wouldn't be able to see it even if I closed my eyes. At noon, Mo Yangyu was very happy at the dining table. Snow Eagle Qing Shi is rushing back with his girlfriend. He should be here by evening. Qing Shi too, he's also dragging it out. This time I'll have to talk to Qing Shi about it. He can't always be focused on cultivating magic. He needs to get married first. Dongbua Shuiying smiled. Maybe by getting married and changing his mood, that brat Qing Shi will be able to step into the transcendent realm. I'm full. Let's go out for a walk. Dongbua Shuiying stood up. Lady Jingqiu, come. Accompany me for a chat. Mo Yangyu was very happy today. Stop messing around and wasting their time. Dongbua frowned from the side. It's fine. Jingqiu smiled. Up until now, Dongbua Shuiying hadn't told his parents about this matter. He didn't intend to. He believed that as time passed, his parents would gradually find out. Walking alone in the familiar castle, the servants that passed by were all incomparably respectful. Towards this dazzling existence of the Dongbua clan, they were all extremely excited. It was just that when he was young, almost all the servants in the clan were no longer around. After all, if the servants were still alive, they would be over 100 years old. In reality, only those who had reached the star realm could live to over 100 years old. Clearly, the group of old servants from back then were too few to reach the star realm. Rumble. The closed door of the training field was opened by Dongbua Shuiying. Looking at the cleared snow on the training field, Dongbua Shuiying revealed a smile. A long time ago, when he was young, he would crazily practice his spear here every single day. Dongbua Shuiying waved his hand, and a spear that looked like a flowing cloud of fire appeared in his hand. He then began to practice his spear to his heart's content. The spear was like a swimming dragon, moving according to his will. When it lashed out, it was like thunder. When it stabbed, it was like a bolt of lightning. Even though the pain from the hexing poison in his body was slowly increasing, Dongbua Shuiying's thoughts were all on his spear techniques. It wasn't like comprehending a true meaning, which required him to expend all his effort to deduce it. At this moment, he didn't have any other thoughts. Even his mind was empty. He was only displaying his spear techniques to his heart's content. There was only the purest joy in his heart. It was precisely because he truly loved spear techniques that Dongbua Shuiying could have such shocking achievements in his youth. He had even grasped the true meaning of extreme piercing, true meaning of mirage, true meaning of star. But for some unknown reason, ever since he grasped hold of the 3 embryonic forms of grade 2 true meanings, Dongbua Shuiying relied more on his true meanings. He would deduce and perfect his true meanings. At this moment, he was like a child purely practicing his spear techniques because he loved it. He didn't need to think about any true meanings. He was purely practicing his spear techniques with a pure heart. Because he loved it, he was obsessed with it. Chapter 274. Jingqiu and Mo Yangyu chatted for a long time. The sky gradually darkened, but Mo Yangyu was still very happy as she grabbed Jingqiu, her daughter-in-law. She was really too happy today. In the end, Jingqiu took the initiative to find an excuse to leave and go find Dongbua Shuiying. According to her calculations, it had already been 8 hours since they left the Infernal Palace. Senior Snow Eagle probably won't be able to hold on much longer. Jingqiu sensed something and discovered Dongbua Shuiying's aura in the training grounds of Snowrock Castle. This made her very surprised. Is Senior Snow Eagle still practicing his spear? She hurried over. Shua! In a flash, he was already at the entrance of the training field. At this moment, Dongbua Shuiying's movements were not considered fast, but the power of his spear was vast and mighty. Rumble, the power of his spear was controlled to a radius of 10 meters, but within that radius cracks could be seen. Occasionally, the spear would turn into thousands of afterimages, and the spear would even cause gravity to distort the space. In short, the radius of 10 meters was a zone of destruction. It has already been 8 hours, and Senior Snow Eagle is still able to persist in practicing his spear? Isn't he in pain? Jing Qiu did not dare to believe it yesterday. He was only barely able to control the pain. Jing Qiu watched from the side, not disturbing him. 1 hour, 2 hours. The sky gradually darkened. Brother, brother. Qing Shi's shout could be heard throughout half of Snowrock Castle. Very quickly, Qing Shi arrived at the training grounds. After so many years he had matured a lot. However, because he had become a legend mage, he still looked young, and his eyes were even more mesmerizing. Dongbo Shuiying had once lamented that his brother could rely on his looks to make a living. Brother, tomorrow is the wedding day. Yet you are still practicing your spear arts. Why don't you spend more time with Sister Jing Qiu? I should call her sister-in-law now. Qing Shi smiled as he walked in. Don't disturb your brother for now, Jing Qiu said. Oh, Qing Shi hurriedly replied. Jing Qiu continued to watch. She was very surprised, extremely surprised. Yesterday, he only lasted for 8 hours before he had to return to his room. Today he was actually still practicing his spear arts. The pain was so intense that it was hard for him to think clearly. But at this moment he didn't need to think. He was purely following the instinct in his heart to display his spear art. Faster, faster, faster. It's too slow. Faster is better. Dongbo Shuiying's spear split into thousands of spears and stabbed forward crazily. Every strike was infused with extreme piercing. However, at this moment extreme piercing had already started to absorb some of the profound mysteries of earth, fire, water, and wind. There was only one goal: to increase the speed of this move. Boom, boom, boom. The power is too weak, too weak. It has to be stronger and fiercer. Dongbo Shuiying's spear technique changed. Both of his hands stabbed out furiously as he exerted his full strength. At the same time, his spear technique utilized the true meaning of star, as well as the true meaning of extreme piercing. The spear swept out, seemingly splitting the world into two. The spear danced in the air like a dragon. As he was completely immersed in his spear art, even the pain he was feeling seemed to have lessened significantly. However, as time passed, the pain grew stronger and stronger, and eventually Dongbo Shuiying was forced to stop. Huff, huff, huff. Dongbo Shuiying's forehead was filled with sweat. When he saw Qing Shi at the door and his little brother, Dongbo Shuiying could not help but smile. Qing Shi is back. Brother. Qing Shi immediately ran over. Brother, you seem to be in a good mood. Tomorrow is your wedding, and now you are practicing your spear art. Just now someone came to call for dinner. Let's eat together. Not tonight. Dongbo Shuiying laughed. I still have some matters to discuss with Jing Qiu. Oh, then I shall not disturb the two of you. Qing Shi snickered. Dongbo Shuiying nodded and walked towards Jing Qiu. He held her hand and left. Soon the two of them entered the house. The door closed. Dongbo Shuiying's face instantly turned pale, and sweat started to form. He grinned. So close I almost exposed myself in front of Qing Shi. Senior Snow Eagle, you've been practicing for 10 hours. Jing Qiu was shocked. It's much better than yesterday, because I'm practicing my spear art. Dongbo Shuiying replied. Practicing spear art? Jing Qiu was shocked. Practicing spear art is different from comprehending the nature of heaven and earth. It's different from you mages comprehending spells. Dongbo Shuiying said. Comprehending the nature of heaven and earth, comprehending the true meaning, and all sorts of profound mysteries have to be deduced. Some still need to be tested and perfected. The first stage, second stage, third stage, and even condensing the true deity heart. It's even more complicated for you mages to comprehend the spell models, and you need to spend a lot of effort to do so. Amen. Jing Qiu nodded. The nature of heaven and earth was complicated, and only transcendence had powerful souls. Mortals would find it hard to comprehend it. It would already be amazing if they could barely reach the realm of myriad existences. When practicing spear art, I only need to pursue perfection in my spear art. I don't need to spend too much effort to deduce the true meaning. I only need to improve my spear art. Dongbo Shuiying said. As for the true meaning, It's just a side effect of pursuing the spear art. Senior Snow Eagle, what do you mean? Jing Qiu didn't understand. Not cultivating the true meaning but the spear art. The improvement of the spear art is the improvement of the realm. It doesn't contradict the improvement of the true meaning. Dongbo Shuang said. In reality, today's spear training had shaken Dongbo Shuang greatly. In the past, he had never been tortured by pain, so he didn't feel anything. But this time, under the torture of pain, he wasn't able to spend too much effort to comprehend the true meaning, or anything else. But as a result, Dongbo Shuang became even purer and more unaffected in his pursuit of spear arts. In the past, he had also pursued spear arts. But every time he improved, he would ponder, is this the right way? He could instantly consider countless problems, and rapidly perfect his spear arts, choosing a better path for himself. But in reality, was this path really good? But this time, he didn't have the ability to think too much and ponder over the true meaning. He could only rely on his instincts. I actually combined the true meaning of star and the true meaning of extreme piercing together? Dongbo Shuang was shocked. In the past, I definitely wouldn't have allowed these two true meanings to be fused together. This was simply too reckless. But this time I actually did it. Furthermore, it seems like the power of my spear arts has increased by a little. Maybe this is a different path. Dongbo Shuang pondered. Who cares? I only have 100 to 200 years of lifespan left. What's the point of being overcautious? Since it's spear training, I should let myself be happy. As for the true meaning and whatnot, it's just a side effect. Dongbo Shuang laughed. Back then, when he was in the Scarlet Cloud Mountain world, he didn't have any predecessors to guide him. He purely followed his heart. Even when he was reprimanded by faction head Si Kongyang, he still persevered and eventually grasped the embryonic form of the true meaning of extreme piercing. That's how it should be. Dongbo Shuang didn't hesitate at all. Ever since I grasped hold of 3 different grade 2 true meanings, I've been blinded by their power. I've been focused on making them stronger. Dongbo Shuang sighed. But I've forgotten that what I've been pursuing in the past has always been spear arts. True meanings are meant for spear arts. Spear arts are everything. As for what true meanings I've comprehended, that's up to me. As long as my spear arts become stronger, I'll continue to improve. This couldn't be blamed on Dongbo Shuang. The true meaning of extreme piercing, true meaning of mirage, and true meaning of star were simply too powerful. They made Dongbo Shuang feel that he was omnipotent. He even felt that there was no longer anyone in the mortal world who could threaten his life. It was this encirclement that had given him a wake-up call. It had awakened him, allowing him to remember that what he had been pursuing in the past was spear arts. Actually, all these years, whether it was to deal with the demon bases or to explore the land and sea, he had never stopped to think about it. There's no need to consider too much when pursuing spear arts. That way, the burden on my heart will be smaller. I can also cultivate for 10 to 12 hours a day. As time passes, I'll get used to the pain. I can even increase the amount of time I can cultivate. Dongbo Shuang nodded slightly. Even though he had been poisoned, he was still very happy to be able to practice his spear arts every day. It was as if the pain he felt during his training had been reduced. Being immersed in the world of spear arts was truly mesmerizing. The next morning, Snowrock Castle was already decorated with lanterns and colored banners. Since morning, transcendents had been arriving one after another. There were even huge ships that had arrived. The people on these ships were all transcendents from all over the world. They were all here to congratulate the legendary Dongbo Shuang. Chapter 275. The spacious ship tore open a spatial rift and flew into the clouds. Some of the transcendents looked down and saw the Snowrock Castle decorated with lanterns and colored banners. We've arrived at Snowrock Castle. I still remember watching Brother Dongbo's transcendent battle of life and death 50 years ago. At that time, I knew that Brother Dongbo's future was extraordinary. Just as I guessed, he had cultivated for less than 100 years and was already much stronger than the Eternal Wind Knight. Unfortunately, the Sorcerer God and the Great Demon God plotted to take revenge, destroying the most heaven-defying transcendents in the history of our Xia people. Just thinking about it makes my heart ache. Today is a joyous occasion for Dongbu Shuiying. Let's not talk about this anymore. Right, it's a joyous occasion. Let's not talk about anything else. The ship slowly descended. A beast-man lion-man walked down first, followed by a group of transcendents. Brother Tanshi, the red-robed Dongbu Shuiying and his wife Jing Qiu, came forward to welcome them, and the transcendents of the Sea Deity Palace. Brother Dongbu. Tanshi smiled. Congratulations, congratulations. You've plucked the most beautiful flower of our Xia people. You don't know how many transcendents are secretly gnashing their teeth. Haha, no problem. Let them drink a few more cups to drown their sorrows. Dongbu Shuiying joked. Right. I haven't congratulated Brother Tanshi for stepping into the demigod realm. I've also just broken through. The palace lord did not allow me to participate in the attack on the demonic faction headquarters. It's a pity that I missed such a grand occasion. Tanshi replied. Left Qiu Knight Tanshi had just broken through, and was currently consolidating his foundation. As a newly advanced demigod knight, he would not be of much help. Palace Lord Chun also did not allow him to participate in the battle. After all, Qiu Bai and Tanshi were the most outstanding transcendents of their generation. Other transcendents have arrived. I'll go and welcome them first. Everyone, please come in and have a seat. Dongbu Shuiying said with Jing Qiu accompanying him with a smile. All right. The group of transcendents from the Sea Deity Palace entered. Dongbu Shuiying brought his wife to welcome the other group of transcendents. A transcendent's wedding did not have as many rules as a mortal's. Some transcendents could not even be bothered to hold a ceremony. After all, they had lived for a long time and were very carefree. Dongbu Shuiying and Jing Qiu also kept things simple. The two of them went to have a few drinks with their friends and guests. It was also an opportunity to tell everyone that they were officially husband and wife from now on. Transcendence. Qiu Bai immediately stood up. Although he could not hide it. Qiu Bai's expression. Qiu Bai immediately stood up. There's no need to blame the heavens. Dongbu Shuiying said. In the previous battle with the demons, many transcendents of the Xia people died in battle. But at least I'm still alive. I'm already very fortunate to be able to live with my wife for 100 years. Amongst the mortals, how many can have such a blissful life? It can be said that I've already surpassed trillions of mortals. Chao Qing nodded. Snow Eagle, I've always admired your state of mind. If I were your age, I would have long gone crazy after suffering such a huge setback. Right. Does that 6 ghost resentment voodoo poison affect your cultivation? Chao Qing asked. It's very difficult. Dongbu Shuiying nodded. Comprehending true intent requires all of one's mental strength. Because of the voodoo poison's influence, it's almost impossible to comprehend true intent. Fortunately, I can still practice my spear arts. There were disadvantages and advantages. The disadvantage was, when practicing spear arts, one might walk on a fork. After all, one did not have enough mental strength to judge whether it was right or wrong. The advantage was that one could disregard all influences and even disregard one's true intent. One could only focus on one thing, to make one's spear art stronger. It didn't matter if one's true intent was affected. As long as one's spear arts improved and became stronger. That was enough. After all, it was hard for him to focus on cultivating his true intent when he was in intense pain. With a wife to accompany me and something I like to do, not bad. Chao Qing nodded. All right, this old man is leaving. Let's say our last farewell today. Haha, if this old man can really become a god and come out of Crimson Rock Mountain alive, we might meet again. I wish you success, Elder Chao, Dongbu Shuiying said. Even I know that the chances are slim. But to be able to experience Crimson Rock Mountain before I die, this old man's blood really starts to boil. Chao Qing laughed, then transformed into a streak of light and soared into the sky. Dongbu Shuiying raised his head and looked at him. Would he ever have the chance to see this adorable old man again? He didn't know why. Although he had never seen his grandfather before, he could feel his grandfather's aura from Chao Qing. Elder Chao, take care. Dongbu Shuiying said quietly. After staying in Snowrock Castle for 3 months, he had made all the necessary arrangements. The transcendent seven-leafed flower was also given to his parents. Then on a summer morning, Dongbua Shui Ying and Jing Qiu began to roam the world together. "Brother, write to me often. I'll come and find you often," Qing Shi shouted. "Haha. Don't worry." On the way down from Snowrock Mountain, two treading snow horses galloped forward. Dongbua Shui Ying and Jing Qiu each rode a horse. The two of them were carefree and unrestrained as they traveled the world together. "You said that you'll accompany me to every corner of the world. We'll eat all kinds of delicious food and see all kinds of beautiful sceneries. You can't go back on your words." "Don't worry, I'll listen to you. If you tell me to go left, I won't dare to go right. If you tell me to go forward, I won't dare to go back. How about it? Good enough, right?" "Yes, yes, yes. Not bad, not bad." Chapter 276. Something Good. Dongbua Shui Ying's gaze swept across the people in front of him, including the golden-robed man. The golden-robed man smiled and said, "I, Sand Tiger, have been in White River City for many years. I have long heard of a restaurant in White River City. The owner of the restaurant, Dongbua, is an incredible artist. I only got to meet him today." "Artist?" Palace Lord Chun laughed at the side. It was indeed interesting that the dignified Dongbua Shui Ying was called an artist. Dongbua Shui Ying nodded slightly. "Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger. I have long heard of your name. I wonder why you are here today." "My teacher is here." The silver-robed man Long Tianyun stared. "Tunyun, shut up." The golden-robed man frowned. "Yes." Long Tianyun immediately shut up. He was very obedient and respectful. The golden-robed man continued with a smile. "I am here because Dongbua, you have a good disciple, Yi Qing." "Yi Qing?" Shui Ying frowned. Over the past 100 years, he had casually taught spear techniques to a few people, of which he was quite fond of a few of them. However, the only one whose talent caught his eye was his third disciple, Yi Qing. As for his eldest disciple, Long Tianyun, his second disciple, Chan Qin, and the other disciples he had taught, their talents were all ordinary. Even though he had taught them in accordance with their aptitudes, the chances of them becoming legend rankers in this lifetime were extremely low. After all, for a disciple to be powerful, the teacher was important, but the disciple himself was more important. Yi Qing belonged to the category of talented disciples. "Yi Qing." The golden-robed man looked at Yi Qing. "Senior Sand, if you have any problems, come at me. Why are you looking for my teacher?" The red-robed man Yi Qing said angrily. The golden-robed man said, "I am not looking for trouble. I am here to accept you as my disciple." "Accept me as your disciple?" Yi Qing was startled. Dongbua Shui Ying was also startled. "Snatching disciples? Haha, I never thought that the young man my daughter likes is you." The golden-robed man laughed. "Although you have offended me before, it was unintentional. Since my daughter likes you, and your talent is high, you should accept me as your teacher. Join my Scarlet Flames Fortress and become my disciple. I can guarantee that you will become a legend ranker. I will give you the best Doqi cultivation method so that you can cultivate faster. I will also give you better weapons. Haha, after that you can become my son-in-law. We will be a family." White River City was only so big, and Yi Qing was quite strong, so he naturally caught the eye of the Scarlet Flame Knight, Sand Tiger. But upon closer inspection, he was shocked. This brat who had just passed the age of 20 had actually reached the level of a spear grandmaster. Most people might not be able to see through it, but he himself was a grandmaster. With a single glance, he could tell that it was a grandmaster spear technique. It must be known that many legend rankers were not even at the level of a grandmaster in terms of combat techniques. This Yi Qing brat was practically guaranteed to become a legend ranker. In addition, he also knew that the young man his daughter had always liked was this Yi Qing. Thus, Shahu decided to have Long Tianyun lead the way to this Dongyu restaurant. "Impossible." Yi Qing shook his head. "What did you say?" The golden-robed man, Sand Tiger, thought that he had misheard. "Master's kindness towards me is as heavy as a mountain. When I was under Master's tutelage, I was only 11 years old. I didn't have a father, and my mother didn't care about me. I couldn't eat well. It was Master who gave me food, bought me clothes, taught me spear techniques, taught me douqi techniques. To me this is my home. Yi Qing said. Dong Shuang heard this and his heart warmed. He couldn't help but reveal a smile. This brat Yi Qing, I can't leave and I can't join your Scarlet Flame Fortress. Senior Sand, you are a legend knight. A peak existence in the entire White River County. What difference does it make if I join your Scarlet Flame Fortress or not? Yi Qing said. You are going to accompany a group of children to practice such crude spear techniques in this place? The golden-robed man frowned and shouted, Yi Qing, you should have a wider world. Master's health isn't good. Naturally, I have to accompany Master. Yi Qing said. Standing beside Palace Lord Chun and Jing Qiu. Dong Shuang was even happier when he heard this. Yi Qing, this mysterious guy, had long since trained his spear techniques to such a high level. Every day, he would come over to accompany me to practice with those children. So, it was because of my poor health. Among his disciples, Dong Shuang really liked Yi Qing the most. When he first met Yi Qing was only 11 years old. He was a skinny and weak brat who looked like an ordinary 7 or 8-year-old kid. Even in the middle of winter, he was dressed in rags. He was usually very well behaved, willing to work hard and obedient. He never thought that to Yi Qing, this Dongyu restaurant had already become his home, and he had become his family. Humph. The golden-robed man said angrily, all right, I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. Do you like my daughter? Of course I do, Yi Qing said. Then come with me. The golden-robed man said angrily, if you dare to refuse, you and my daughter will never be able to be together. Moreover, if I give the order, your sickly master's Dongyu restaurant will be shut down. In fact, if I give the order, your master and the others will not have a good life. Yi Qing was furious. However, he was clear of the influence of this veteran-titled knight Sand Tiger. In the entire Baijiang County, Sand Tiger was one of the top 3 strongest titled knights. You want to shut down my restaurant and make my life miserable? What a big mouth. Dong Shuang laughed. You sure are arrogant. The sorcerer god and the great demon god both wanted to kill you, but didn't they fail? The palace lord Chun laughed as well. The golden-robed Sand Tiger was stunned. Sorcerer god? The great demon god? The sorcerer god of the sorcerer god palace? The great demon god of the demonic faction? These two existences were too far away. They were not beings from the Xia people's world, but powerful spirits from the deity realm and the dark abyss. Wu Lei, teach him a lesson and chase him out, Dong Shuang casually ordered. Yes, master. The white-haired elder respectfully replied. At this moment the Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger, his subordinates Long Tianyuan, and his disciple Yi Qing were all staring blankly at this scene. The white-haired elder then turned his head to look at the Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger. The Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger was stunned. An old man dared to attack him? You dare to disrespect master. The white-haired elder stretched out his hand. His palm immediately turned into a white fog, and the white fog instantly grabbed the golden-robed man. The golden-robed man felt that he was surrounded by fog. He wanted to struggle, but he couldn't. This caused him to reveal a look of fear. He was a titled knight, but he couldn't even struggle. Being grabbed by the white fog, the golden-robed man Sand Tiger spread his arms and legs wide open. Pung! 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 The dignified Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger slammed his face into the ground. In an instant he slammed over 100 times. Every slap was extremely heavy, and even the Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger spat out blood. How strong was a titled knight's body? He had already spat out blood, but there wasn't even a dent in the ground. The white-haired elder casually swung his arm, and the golden-robed man Sand Tiger fell to the side like a dead dog. Everyone was stunned, and Long Tianyun was even more confused. Senior. The golden-robed man Sand Tiger suddenly crawled to his feet. Disregarding his injuries, he was incomparably respectful, and even somewhat flattering. Senior, may I ask who you are? How cunning was the Sand Tiger? How could he not know that this white-haired elder was a terrifying existence? He was definitely a transcendent. The white-haired elder, Wu Lei, said, I am only master's weakest servant. This wasn't a lie. Among the deity warriors under his command, Wu Lei was indeed the weakest. However, he still had the strength of a veteran demigod. The weakest servant? Sand Tiger looked at Dongbu Shuiying, Jing Qiu, and Palace Lord Chun in horror. Master! Suddenly a loud shout rang out. Putong! Long Tianyun knelt heavily on the ground. His eyes were red and filled with tears. He looked at Dongbu Shuiying and shouted, Master, I was wrong. Tianyun was wrong. Dongbu Shuiying was instantly shocked. This eldest disciple of his had once again surpassed his understanding of him. He had originally been disappointed in him, but now, he was no longer just disappointed. He was completely speechless towards Long Tianyun. A person couldn't be this shameless. Scram! Dongbu Shuiying suddenly waved his sleeves. Boom! A formless energy instantly enveloped the golden-robed man, Sand Tiger, Long Tianyun, and his subordinates. Shua, this group of people disappeared. In a luxurious castle in White River City, it occupied an area of more than 1 kilometer. It was even larger than Snowrock Castle. For it to be so large in the entire county city, one could see how powerful it was. This was the Scarlet Flames Castle. A large group of people appeared out of thin air in the training grounds where the guards of the Scarlet Flames Castle usually gathered. At the same time, a group of horses also appeared out of thin air. Long Tianyun was still kneeling heavily on the ground. Sand Tiger was also somewhat stunned. The soldiers and the large group of horses were also stunned. Following that, a commotion broke out and the horses neighed. Clearly, the sudden change in the surroundings was too much for the horses to bear. This is the Scarlet Flames Castle? Sand Tiger was stunned. This was his home, so of course he recognized it. We've reached the Scarlet Flames Castle? Long Tianyun was also stunned. With just a wave of his sleeves, we all went from Dongyu Restaurant to the Scarlet Flames Castle? This is the power of a fiend god. Even the transcendents I've heard of aren't this powerful. Could this be the legendary demigod of our Xia people? Sand Tiger gulped. At this time, a large group of guards and many family members of the Scarlet Flames Castle rushed over. They were all shocked and bewildered. Father, why are you all here? Ah, Father, why are you covered in blood and filth? A green-robed young lady with bright eyes and white teeth ran over. Little Chi, my obedient daughter. Sand Tiger laughed loudly. It's fine, Father, is fine. I approve of the matter between you and Yi Qing. I approve very much. Haha, if you have time, bring Yi Qing over here. Me and Yi Qing. The young lady was somewhat dazed by the surprise of her arrival. Sand Tiger suddenly looked at Long Tianyun, who was kneeling beside him in a daze. His eyes were filled with disgust as he shouted, Throw this Long Tianyun out. He can forget about taking another step into the Scarlet Flames Castle. Yes. Instantly, a group of guards rushed forward and grabbed Long Tianyun. My master, he... Long Tianyun could never forget the scene of his sickly master, Dongbo, waving his sleeves. With a wave of his sleeves, the heavens and earth changed. Chapter 277. Time flowed by like flowing water. 100 years could change many things. To the mortals of the Xia people's world, the name Dongbu Shuiying had already become a legend. There were even biographies of Dongbu Shuiying circulating around. Even for the transcendents of the Xia people, having not seen Dongbu Shuiying for 100 years, their memories of him had already started to fade. Dongbu Shuiying brought his wife to travel around the Xia people's world. Only a few of his close friends knew of his whereabouts. Ordinary transcendents did not even know where he was. The Xia people's world was located in a beautiful ancient city in the southeast of the mainland, Baijiang City. In Baijiang City, there was a restaurant that had been open for more than 10 years. Its name was Dongyu Restaurant. The owner of the restaurant was a young couple. The man seemed to be ill and his face was pale. However, he treated his customers very well. His wife was quite beautiful, but she rarely appeared in the restaurant. Baijiang City's spring is really beautiful. It's a different scenery from Water Rights Town. In a corner of the second floor of the restaurant, a man dressed in white was holding a paintbrush. He sat there and looked at the scenery outside through the window. There was a street outside and beside the street was a river. On both sides of the river, there were weeping willows. Thousands of weeping willows danced in the wind. There were also plum blossoms and other unknown flowers blooming. The sunlight from the south was even more dazzling and colorful. When it shone on the green trees and red flowers, the colors became even more colorful. Dongbu Shuiying had lived in Baijiang City for 15 years. However, he still liked this city very much. All these years, he and Jingqiu had already traveled to every city in the Xia people's world. Regardless of whether it was a county city or a small city, they had even stayed in some of their favorite places for a long period of time. They had lived in oases and deserts, on prairies, on mountain peaks for a long time, and on islands. There were also countless delicacies that they loved the most. For example, when they opened this restaurant in Baijiang City, they had poached 2 of their favorite chefs and offered them extremely good conditions. The 2 chefs cooked very little every day. Other than serving Dongbu Shuiying and his wife, they only cooked a small amount for outsiders. Most of the dishes were cooked by their disciples. Even so, the Dongyu restaurant had gained quite a reputation in White River Town over the past 10 years. Yeah, the most beautiful thing in White River City is spring. If you miss it, it'll be gone forever. Dongbu Shuiying sat there muttering to himself. One of his hands was pressing on the paper, and the other was holding a paintbrush, drawing on the paper. His paintbrush was like a knife, and each stroke was precise and exquisite. He had clearly drawn out the ravine on the bark of a weeping willow by the roadside. "Boss, this painting is really good. Sell it to me for 10 gold coins." A silver-haired old man walked over. The old man looked at the painting with an infatuated look. 100 gold coins, I won't sell anything lower. Shuiying casually muttered, I say, old Cho, don't keep tormenting me. Don't tell me you don't know the rules of selling paintings? This kind of small painting is 100 gold coins. I won't sell any lower. You haven't finished painting yet. The silver-haired old man muttered. We've known each other for more than 10 years. Moreover, your paintings are too expensive. 100 gold coins is enough to buy a star-breaking crossbow and hire a group of knights. Look, how many paintings have you sold after so many years? It's been more than 10 years, and I remember that the number of paintings sold can be counted with one's fingers. But you've already painted more than 1,000 paintings. Moreover, even the paintings of famous masters are usually only worth 100 to 1,000 gold coins. I'm not famous, but old Cho, I'll give you one word. Buy it or leave it. Dongbu Shuiying grinned and glanced at the old man. He could tell that the old man really liked his paintings. This old man really liked his paintings. Shuiying questioned himself. Regarding painting techniques and artistic conception, he was absolutely not inferior to those mortals experts. Of course, his paintings were not packaged or boasted, so he didn't have any fame. However, he was just playing for fun. Moreover, every painting contained some of Dongbu Shuiying's comprehension towards spear arts. If one's mastery of spear arts had reached the level of a master, they might be able to comprehend a thing or two. In the past few years, he had sold a total of 5 paintings. Among them, 3 were bought by Palace Head Chen, Mountain Lord He, and Yuan Qing. The other 2 were bought by a spear expert and a young master from a rich family. That young master was even a good friend of his. As the owner of a restaurant, he had made many friends, and this old Cho was one of them. He was too stingy. Of course, it could also be because the price of his paintings was too high. Humph! Dongbu Shuiying suddenly snorted. Beads of sweat appeared on his forehead, and his fingers trembled. Instantly, a stroke appeared on the painting, and it was ruined. Ai! Dongbu Shuiying stood up and tore the painting. Don't! The silver-haired old man hurriedly said. You can give this to me. But Dongbu Shuiying tore it in 2 or 3 moves. Old Cho, if it's not done well, I won't keep it. It was like the pursuit of the extreme in spear arts. Painting was the same as spear arts. If it was not done well, he would rather destroy it than keep it. How heartache! The silver-haired old man, Old Cho, shook his head. Dongbu Shuiying laughed. When he and Jingqiu moved out of White River City, he would gift a painting to Old Cho as a gift. But for now, everything had to be done according to the rules. Without paying 100 gold coins, don't even think about taking away a painting. Dongbu Shuiying stood up and walked towards the stairs. He frowned and thought to himself, the effects of the 100 bitter cycle are getting weaker and weaker. After consuming it for over 100 years, The 6 ghosts' resentment hexing poison in his body had gradually adapted to it, and the effects of the 100 bitter cycle were getting weaker and weaker. Even if he had just consumed it, the suppressive effects were already very weak, and the pain was terrifying. Not long after, the medicinal effects would completely disappear, and he would have to consume it every 2 hours. It could be said that he was constantly being tortured by this terrifying pain. Time and time again, Dongbu Shuiying had the urge to drink the antidote. Although he knew that the effects were weak, it was still better than nothing. But he still endured it. I finally understand why many people who are poisoned don't live past 100 years. It's easy to endure it once, but to endure it day and night, it's really difficult. Dongbu Shuiying thought to himself, but this can be considered as training my spirit and willpower. I'm afraid that in the entire mortal world, my spirit and willpower should be ranked at the very top? Initially, he was in so much pain that he couldn't control his body and would roll around. But now, he would only occasionally lose control of his muscles under extreme pain. This was all due to the suppression of willpower. Master. The gray-robed man who was leaning against the railing and drinking leisurely walked over and said softly, "Swordsman, don't worry about me," Dongbu Shuiying said as he walked downstairs. Swordsman was the 5th of the 5 shadows from the deity world. When Dongbu Shuiying and Jing Qiu traveled outside, they would need subordinates to handle some miscellaneous matters. Thus, they brought along their weakest subordinates, the White Fog Ape and Swordsman. Walking down the stairs, Bei Feng walked through the back door of a restaurant and entered a courtyard. This was the residence of Dongbu Shuiying and Jing Qiu for the past 10+ years. Ha! Ha! Crisp sounds rang out one after another. With a smile on his face, Shuiying entered the training grounds. Within the training grounds, there was a group of people practicing their spear techniques. The youngest of them was probably only 6 or 7 years old. Their spear dance was quite interesting and fun. The oldest was already over 20 years old, and their movements were extremely graceful. Master! Master! When Dongbu Shuiying arrived, they stopped and greeted him. You guys can continue. There's no need to mind me. Dongbu Shuiying smiled. Because he was teaching spear arts for free, some of the children in the surrounding areas would come over to learn spear arts. However, he was only teaching them basic spear arts. Even if some of them had been practicing diligently for a few years, although he had taught them Do-Chi techniques, they looked very ordinary on the surface. So far, he had only taught them Do-Chi techniques to 5 disciples. Thus, there were not many people who came here to learn spear arts. Most of the neighbors probably thought that this place was meant to look after the children. Thunder mist. Dongbu Shuiying suddenly called out, "Hua!" Immediately, a white-haired old man arrived at the training field and walked over. This white-haired old man was the White Fog Ape. Thunder mist could transform into mist, and it could also change into various forms. Naturally, it was better to transform into a human form when traveling outside. Master. The white-haired old man greeted respectfully. The youths who were practicing spear arts did not find it strange at all, because they knew that this was Butler Bai. They had heard that he was a Star Realm expert. Hurry up and get ready, the Palace Lord Chen is here, Dongbu Shuiying said. Yes. The white-haired old man immediately retreated. Chapter 278. Dongbu Shuiying raised his head and looked at the sky a few hundred li away. Not long after, a spatial crack appeared, and a figure appeared. He looked in Dongbu Shuiying's direction. Their gazes met and they both smiled. Following that, the figure teleported and disappeared. Dongbu Shuiying walked to the closed north gate and opened it. A black-haired old man stood outside. Snow Eagle, the black-haired old man said with a smile. Palace Lord Chen, what brings you here today? Dongbu Shuiying led the way, and the two walked in together. Of course I have something to discuss with you. This is my first time coming to Baijiang City. It's not bad, it's very beautiful. Palace Lord Chen smiled and praised. Snow Eagle, you really know how to pick a place. The last time we met was 30 years ago, right? It was on the beach of an island. The scenery there was so beautiful that even I was stunned. To be honest, you two really know how to pick a place. I've lived for almost 2,000 years, but I've never been to many places. So, Palace Lord Chen, you have to travel around as well. You have to explore the entire Xia people's world. Dongbu Shuang said. I've done it before when I was looking for the demon general, so I know where to bring Jing Qiu. If you want to go, I'll give you a list later. But to be honest, it's best to slowly experience the world. The customs of each place are different, and it's very interesting. Haha, I'm too busy. Palace Lord Chun shook his head. At this time, two people walked over from a distant corridor. One was Jing Qiu, who was wearing a dark blue robe, and the other was the white-haired old man, Wu Lei. Master, the preparations are done. The white-haired old man quickly walked to Dongbu Shuiying's side and said softly. Dongbu Shuiying nodded. Mage Jing Qiu, long time no see. The palace lord Chen smiled. He still held Jing Qiu in high regard, and had strong expectations for her. Although she became a transcendent a few years later than Dongbu Shuiying, she was still a sorcerer. Mages cultivated slowly in the early stages, and many mages only started to gradually cultivate magic after they reached adulthood. Mages needed to accumulate a lot. Therefore, the fact that Jing Qiu had become a transcendent magician at such a young age was also very shocking. It was just that she was overshadowed by Dongbu Shuiying back then. Yuan Qing also had the same treatment as her. Yuan Qing had stepped into the transcendent realm at the age of 30, 2 years later than Dongbu Shuiying, and even earlier than Qi Qiu Bai. Furthermore, he had comprehended the profound mysteries of the third-grade true meaning of light and darkness the moment he stepped into the transcendent realm. His talent was similarly high. But at that time the most dazzling person was Dongbu Shuiying. His brilliance covered everyone else. He was publicly acknowledged as the most talented transcendent in the history of the Xia people. These youngsters from ordinary families were shocked when they heard the words Legend Knight. To them, Legend Knights were simply legends. Wow, big senior brother, you actually have a Legend Knight as your teacher. That's too amazing. These youngsters were all excited. In the Xia people, it was very normal to have a few teachers. Brother Dongbu. The silver-robed youth looked at Dongbu Shuiying. His eyelids twitched as he arrogantly said, You have seen my teacher. Why aren't you coming over to pay your respects? Long Tianyun. Among the group of people who were practicing their spear techniques, the oldest one was a youth dressed in red. He was over 20 years old. He angrily shouted, How can you treat your teacher like this? You have been learning spear techniques from your teacher for a total of 12 years. Your family owed a huge debt. When someone came to collect the debt, it was my teacher who helped your family repay the debt. You were so brave and fierce. When you were seriously injured, it was my teacher who hired people to treat you. He provided for you to eat and drink, raised you up and treated you like a family member. You shut up. The silver-robed youth angrily shouted. You still have the face to ask me to shut up. The red-robed youth angrily said. He was the one who was heartless first. The silver-robed youth angrily said. I was his disciple, not a beast. Beating, scolding, punishing, he simply didn't treat me as a human. Since that's the case, I will cut all ties with him. However, I, Long Tianyun, will remember his kindness in the past. In the future, I will naturally repay him. Is it not right for your teacher to punish you? You took the money that your teacher wanted you to buy for senior sister's dowry. You actually went to a brothel to drink and compete for the title of courtesan. That was the dowry for senior sister's wedding. Is it wrong for me to punish you? What is this bit of money to my teacher? Just because of this bit of money he punished me. The silver-robed youth coldly snorted. At the side, Palace Lord Chan smiled and said, Snow Eagle, it seems that you are not good at teaching disciples. I am ashamed. Dongbu Shuiying also shook his head. Back then, when he opened this restaurant, besides practicing his spear, he was also willing to teach the surrounding children for free. Because he looked like a sickly person, not many people came to learn. There were only 3 of them. This silver-robed youth, Long Tianyun, was the eldest disciple. The other girl, Chan Qin, was already married and was the second senior sister. At this moment, the one arguing with Long Tianyun was the third junior brother, Yi Qing. Dongbu Shuiying looked at the silver-robed youth and shook his head inwardly. He had watched him grow up step by step from a skinny youth. He had a bad temper, and Dongbu Shuiying had often guided him. Unfortunately, his kindness turned into hatred. He drank all of his junior sister's dowry and threw it away. Dongbua Shuang only punished him once before he cut all ties with him. After 12 years, even cats and dogs would develop feelings, let alone humans. Furthermore, with Dongbua Shuang's state of mind, he would not get angry with a little fellow. He was just a little disappointed. Unexpectedly, when he saw him today, he actually called him Brother Dongbua. Really, he completely did not treat him as his teacher. The 12 years of kindness was completely gone. Enough, Dongbua Shuang said. The moment he spoke, the third junior brother, Yi Qing and Long Tianyun both stopped. Brother Dongbua? What a good brother Dongbua. Dongbua Shuang looked at Long Tianyun. Dare I ask you, now that you are the disciple of a titled knight, why are you here? I called you Brother Dongbua because of our old friendship. The silver-robed youth, Long Tianyun, harumphed coldly. As for me coming here, it's naturally a good thing. To you it's an extremely good thing. Asterisk asterisk. Chapter 279. Something good. Dongbua Shuang's gaze swept across the people in front of him, including the golden-robed man. The golden-robed man smiled and said, I, Sand Tiger, have been in White River City for many years. I have long heard of a restaurant in White River City. The owner of the restaurant, Dongbua, is an incredible artist. I only got to meet him today. Artist? Palace Lord Chun laughed at the side. It was indeed interesting that the dignified Dongbua Shuang was called an artist. Dongbua Shuang nodded slightly. Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger, I have long heard of your name. I wonder why you are here today. My teacher is here. The silver-robed man Long Tianyun stared. Tunyun, shut up. The golden-robed man frowned. Yes. Long Tianyun immediately shut up. He was very obedient and respectful. The golden-robed man continued with a smile. I am here because Dongbua, you have a good disciple, Yi Qing. Yi Qing? Shuang frowned. Over the past 100 years, he had casually taught spear techniques to a few people, of which he was quite fond of a few of them. However, the only one whose talent caught his eye was his third disciple, Yi Qing. As for his eldest disciple, Long Tianyun, his second disciple, Chan Qin, and the other disciples he had taught, their talents were all ordinary. Even though he had taught them in accordance with their aptitudes, the chances of them becoming legend rankers in this lifetime were extremely low. After all, for a disciple to be powerful, the teacher was important, but the disciple himself was more important. Yi Qing belonged to the category of talented disciples. Yi Qing. The golden-robed man looked at Yi Qing. Senior Sand, if you have any problems, come at me. Why are you looking for my teacher? The red-robed man Yi Qing said angrily. The golden-robed man said, I am not looking for trouble. I am here to accept you as my disciple. Accept me as your disciple? Yi Qing was startled. Dongbua Shuang was also startled. Stealing disciples? Haha, I never thought that the young man my daughter likes is you. The golden-robed man laughed. Although you have offended me before, it was unintentional. Since my daughter likes you and your talent is high, you should accept me as your teacher. Join my Scarlet Flames Fortress and become my disciple. I can guarantee that you will become a legend ranker. I will give you the best Dochi cultivation method so that you can cultivate faster. I will also give you better weapons. Haha, after that you can become my son-in-law. We will be a family. White River City was only so big. And Yi Qing was quite strong, so he naturally caught the eye of the Scarlet Flame Knight, Sand Tiger. But upon closer inspection he was shocked. This brat who had just passed the age of 20 had actually reached the level of a spear grandmaster. Most people might not be able to see through it, but he himself was a grandmaster. With a single glance, he could tell that it was a grandmaster spear technique. It must be known that many legend rankers were not even at the level of a grandmaster in terms of combat techniques. This Yi Qing brat was practically guaranteed to become a legend ranker. In addition, he also knew that the young man his daughter had always liked was this Yi Qing. Thus, Shahu decided to have Long Tianyun lead the way to this Dongyu restaurant. Impossible. Yi Qing shook his head. What did you say? The golden-robed Sand Tiger thought that he had misheard. Master's kindness towards me is as heavy as a mountain. When I was under Master's tutelage, I was only 11 years old. I didn't have a father, and my mother didn't care about me. I couldn't eat well. It was Master who gave me food, bought me clothes, taught me spear techniques, taught me douqi techniques. To me, this is my home. Yi Qing said. When Dongbu Shuang heard this, his heart warmed, and he couldn't help but reveal a smile. This brat Yi Qing. It's impossible for me to leave. It's impossible for me to join your Scarlet Flame Fortress. Senior Sand, you are a legend knight. A peak existence in the entire White River County. What difference does it make if I join your Scarlet Flame Fortress or not? Yi Qing said. You are going to accompany a group of children to practice such crude spear techniques in this place? The golden-robed man frowned and shouted. Yi Qing, you should have a wider world. Master's health isn't good. Naturally, I have to accompany Master, Yi Qing said. Standing beside Palace Lord Chun and Jing Qiu, Dongbu Shuang was even happier when he heard this. Yi Qing, this mysterious guy, had long since trained his spear techniques to such a high level. Every day, he would come over to practice with those children to accompany him. So it was because he saw that Dongbu Shuang's health wasn't good. Among his disciples, Dongbu Shuang really liked Yi Qing the most. When he first met Yi Qing was only 11 years old. He was a skinny and weak brat who looked like an ordinary 7 or 8-year-old kid. Even in the middle of winter, he was dressed in rags. He was usually very well behaved, willing to work hard and obedient. He never thought that to Yi Qing, this Dongyu restaurant had already become his home, and he had become his family. Humph. The golden-robed man said angrily, all right, I don't have time to talk nonsense with you. Do you like my daughter? Of course I do, Yi Qing said. Then come with me. The golden-robed man said angrily, if you dare to refuse, you and my daughter will never be able to be together. Moreover, if I give the order, your sickly master's Dongyu restaurant will be shut down. Even if I give a slight signal, your master and the others will not have a good life. Yi Qing was furious. However, he was clear of the influence of this veteran-titled knight Sand Tiger. In the entire Baijiang County, Sand Tiger was one of the top 3 strongest titled knights. You want to shut down my restaurant and make my life miserable? What a big mouth. Dongbu Shuang laughed. You sure are arrogant. The sorcerer god and the great demon god both wanted to kill you, but didn't they fail? The palace lord Chun laughed as well. The golden-robed Sand Tiger was stunned. Sorcerer god? The great demon god? The sorcerer god of the sorcerer god palace? The great demon god of the demonic faction? These two existences were too far away. They were not beings from the Xia people's world, but powerful spirits from the deity realm and the dark abyss. Wu Lei, teach him a lesson and chase him out, Dongbu Shuang casually ordered. Yes, master. The white-haired elder respectfully replied. At this moment, the Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger, his subordinates Long Tianyun, and his disciple Yi Qing were all staring blankly at this scene. The white-haired elder then turned his head to look at the Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger. The Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger was stunned. An old man dared to attack him? You dare to be disrespectful to master. The white-haired elder stretched out his hand. His palm immediately turned into a white fog, and the white fog instantly grabbed the golden-robed man. The golden-robed man felt that he was surrounded by fog. He wanted to struggle, but he was unable to do so. This caused a look of fear to appear on his face. He was a titled knight, but he was unable to struggle at all. Being grabbed by the white fog, the golden-robed man Sand Tiger spread his arms and legs wide open. Pung! 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 The dignified Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger slammed his face into the ground. In an instant he slammed over 100 times. Every strike was extremely heavy, and even the Scarlet Flame Knight Sand Tiger spat out blood. How strong was a titled knight's body? He had already spat out blood, but there wasn't even a dent in the ground. The white-haired elder casually swung his arm, and the golden-robed man Sand Tiger fell to the side like a dead dog. Everyone was stunned, and Long Tianyun was even more confused. Senior. The golden-robed man Sand Tiger suddenly crawled to his feet. Disregarding his injuries, he was incomparably respectful, and even somewhat flattering. Senior, may I ask who you are? How cunning was the sand tiger? How could he not know that this white-haired elder was a terrifying existence? He was definitely a transcendent. The white-haired elder, Wu Lei, said, I am only Master's weakest servant. This was not a lie. Among the deity warriors under his command, Wu Lei was indeed the weakest. However, he still had the strength of a veteran demigod. The weakest servant? Sand Tiger looked at Dongbu Shuiying, Jing Qiu, and Palace Lord Chun in horror. Master! Suddenly a loud shout rang out. Putong! Long Tianyun knelt heavily on the ground. His eyes were red and filled with tears. He looked at Dongbu Shuiying and shouted, Master, I was wrong. Tianyun was wrong. Dongbu Shuiying was instantly shocked. This eldest disciple of his had once again surpassed his understanding of him. Originally he had been disappointed in him, but now he was no longer just disappointed. He was completely speechless towards Long Tianyun. A person could not be this shameless. Scram! Dongbu Shuiying suddenly waved his sleeves. Boom! A formless energy instantly enveloped the golden-robed man, Sand Tiger, Long Tianyun, and his subordinates. Shua, this group of people disappeared. Inside a luxurious castle in White River City, it occupied an area of more than 1 kilometer, and was even larger than Snowrock Castle. For it to be so large in the entire county city, one could see how powerful it was. This was the Scarlet Flames Castle. A large group of people appeared out of thin air on a drill ground where the guards of the Scarlet Flames Castle usually trained. At the same time, a group of horses also appeared out of thin air. Long Tianyun was still kneeling heavily on the ground. Sand Tiger was also in a daze. The soldiers and the large group of horses were all stunned. Following that, a commotion broke out and the horses neighed. Clearly, the sudden change in the surroundings was too much for the horses to bear. This is the Scarlet Flames Castle? Sand Tiger was stunned. This was his home, so of course he recognized it. We've reached the Scarlet Flames Castle? Long Tianyun was also stunned. With just a wave of his sleeves, we all went from Dongyu Restaurant to the Scarlet Flames Castle? This is the power of a fiend god. Even the transcendents I've heard of aren't this powerful. Could this be the legendary demigod of our Xia people? Sand Tiger gulped. He was a little scared. At this time, a large group of guards and many family members of the Scarlet Flames Castle rushed over. They were all shocked and bewildered. Father, why are you all here? Ah, Father, why are you covered in blood and filth? A green-robed young lady with bright eyes and white teeth ran over. Little Chi, my obedient daughter. Sand Tiger laughed. It's fine, Father, is fine. I approve of the matter between you and Yi Qing. I approve very much. Haha, if you have time, bring Yi Qing here. Me and Yi Qing. The young lady was somewhat dazed by the surprise of her arrival. Sand Tiger suddenly looked at Long Tianyun, who was kneeling beside him in a daze. His eyes were filled with disgust as he shouted, Throw this Long Tianyun out. He can forget about taking another step into the Scarlet Flames Castle. Yes. Instantly, a group of guards rushed forward and grabbed Long Tianyun. My master, he... Long Tianyun could never forget the scene of his sickly master, Dongbo, waving his sleeves. With a wave of his sleeves, the heavens and earth changed. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.